Hello, everyone. Let's go for round two, where we kind of start, our journey in developing an end-to-end application for a project called ARK. For those who weren't following up with us, ARK, it stands for Acts of Random, basically a work. It's a nonprofit project, open source, standard compliant, test driven project that mainly aims towards building a piece of software that software engineers can learn from. It can help inspire people as an end goal. It inspires people to kind of do acts of random kindness, right? So every day you open up the mobile app, you get a notification, you open it up, and it says, do something or other, right? Like help a stranger, give to charity, support your neighbor, call your mom, whatever the case may be. Acts of random kindness that you have to do to kind of it's this continuous reminder that this world and whatever success you've achieved is built on top of at least one arc, one act of random kindness. It didn't expect anything back. It's thankless. It's done just out of the goodness in people's hearts. And in the software realm of that, let's jump to the architecture part about this. This is the where we were last time. We basically said we're going to build a simple application that will have a database, an API, and a mobile app. And we talked a little bit about the mobile app and what it's going to look like. We completed basically these two pieces, right? Because we used an ORM, so we didn't have to actually build a database or make a special database project for it. These days are gone. There's, it's very, very rare to find a DBA these days. So we don't have to have someone actually create a database schema for us, or go and spin up tables for us, and we go back and forth on the contracts and the schemas and the models. All of this has already been accomplished. But now comes this fun part. This is the mobile app part, and the mobile app part is where we kind of gonna dig a little bit deeper into, okay, I built an API. I can call this API. This API is going to give me back, a bunch of arcs, a bunch of acts of random kindness, that I can, look through and whatnot. Each and every one of them will have a date. We agreed on the contract. This is the model. It has a unique identifier. It has a date, and it has the act, and that act is basically a string. It can be anything really. It can be just raw text, or we can make it HTML. So it kind of renders, maybe a header and a little bit of, text underneath it. Maybe it has an image in it. We don't know. We can add anything in it. I kept it super, super generic and super simple, right? And we also implemented the controller. So all these pieces are basically done. The controller part, I don't know why this inside is, let's do this, let's do that. Here you go. So all of this has been actually completed, right? Now comes the mobile app. Okay, so if this covers the API area, right? Let's go here into the into Draw.io and just say all of this area is for the API. Okay. Now I want to build the mobile app part. And as always, like I always tell people, always start from the architecture, right? What are you going to build? How are you going to build it? Like just think it through, right? Don't just jump into the code and be like, I know how to do this. That's a coder mindset. You want to be an engineer where you kind of architect the world first and then think about all the different scenarios and whatnot. Okay. So what does this mobile app look like? Okay, let's zoom out a little bit and let's start from scratch. The mobile app obviously is going to need an API broker. This API broker is what's going to go and call that RESTful API that we just talked about and basically pull a list of arcs, right? It's pulling a list of arcs and it's going to turn them into view models, and then it's going to put it in front of the user. So the user is looking at a list of arcs one at a time, but they can kind of do it as a carousel, right? So you can go right and left, look at previous arcs from the past, future arcs. That's totally fine. There's no restriction on saying, oh, just show one per day. Keep your options open to maximize the impact. And what we really want to do basically is to develop a method that will call our RESTful API, right? So this is going to be the method name, and the name of the method here is going to be get all arcs async, right? So it's calling an API API/arks, and it's getting all arks, right? Does it have any input parameters? No, but the return type, the output, is basically a value task of a list of arks, just like that. So this is your guy. Here we go. Just like that. Here's your list of arks. Perfect, right? Okay, so I pulled a list of arks. That's great. Now, on top of that, I need a method, just a foundation service that's going to be called ARK method, ARK service, right? So this service is going to basically call this API broker, and it's going to basically call this method right here. There's no additional methods to be called here. It's just a method in here that will say the same thing. Instead of get all arks, it will be retrieve all arks async. Okay, and it's returning the same thing. Fantastic, no problem. Okay, this is the kind of domain, the domain area, right? But what's beyond that domain area is where we start talking about the UI stuff. Well, UI needs models to be shaped and kind of mutated in a way that fits its purpose. Because this is a super simple application, we're not going to need to make a big change, but it's really important for me that we maintain the architecture for this. So this is ARK view service. So this is a view model that looks a lot like the domain model or the external model. The only difference is that we can shape it and turn it however we want without hurting the actual domain model that's coming through the API. So here's another method in here. And this method literally calling this here, view all ARK views async. Okay, so we're going to build that one as well. We're going to build a view service as well, and it's going to call that. And then now that we have the view service, we want to render the component. So we need a UI component for our mobile application. And this UI component, we're going to call it ARK component. Okay, so what is this ARK component? This UI component, the Blazor component, is going to call this view service like this. And when it calls this view service, it's going to basically try to render these arcs basically in a carousel, right? So we need a carousel component right here. So that's a base component. Don't know how to spell it. Carousel component, like that. And we might need, do we need anything else? We probably need like an HTML render component, probably, so maybe just something that renders whatever is in there. Do we actually? We probably don't. I mean, the carousel component out of the box would be enough. So it'll basically render that component right here. So this component will call the service, and then you have the carousel component, and then on top of it would be just the ARK page. See how we're architecting a mobile application? You have pages and components and base components, just like how you have services and brokers and exposures. So see how broker, service, controller. In here, the same thing, broker, service, but now you have components, which is the exposure layer, right? According to the standard, right? So that's basically what we're going to try to build today. We'll see. This seems a little bit bigger than the previous session, but we'll do our best. We'll try to go as far as we can. In order for us to do this and complete this flow here, we need to initialize the actual project, right? So which project do I start with? Is it MAUI? Is it MAUI Blazor Hybrid? Do I just, go native? I have to say, like in today's world, like developing applications, mobile applications is so much easier than maybe 10 or 20 years ago. When I first started in this, I was basically using a Nokia E90 connector, and you needed to kind of understand a system called Symbian, and you would write things in Java, right? And you had to learn Java, and then if you want to build something for iOS, when the iPhones came out, you needed to learn something called Objective-C, which turned later into something a little bit nicer like Swift. So you had to build special code for iOS applications, and you had to build special code for Android applications. And then if you want to build Windows desktop applications or web applications, it's a completely different language. You might need C++ or C# or whatever. In today's world, it's so much easier, guys. Like all you have to do is just write C# code, and your C# code will transpile and convert into Java code iOS code, Swift code, Windows code. It doesn't matter what environment you're running in. And that's the kind of power of MAUI, right? Blazor MAUI is that basically it stands up technically as a web server inside of your mobile app, and it renders raw HTML. So you can basically pick up these components and reuse them into a mobile app, a web app, a desktop app. It doesn't matter. That's why it's super genius. The stuff that Steve Sanderson and the .NET team and Dan Roth, the stuff that these guys have been driving, that's why your life is so much easier building a mobile app. And I'm going to show you how to do this. Like, we're going to do a quick kind of project initialization, and then we're going to play around a little bit, and then we're going to get to the serious business where we actually build a broker and a service and a view service and all that fun stuff that we're gonna be doing. So needless to say, let's go ahead and start a new Visual Studio instance. Here we go, and create new project. Here we go. So let me share that part with you because you need to know. I usually don't share the first part because it has so many other projects that I'm working on. You didn't need to know that, right? You know, the part that you need to know is like which type of project you need to pick up from Visual Studio, and you can start from there. So you'll find here, if you just type MAUI like this, you'll find tons of options. Like there's .NET MAUI app, .NET Blazor Hybrid app, .NET Class Library app. Well, there's .NET MAUI Blazor Hybrid and Web app, right? It's just tons of these options. And which one should you go with, right? It's so many, which each one of them have their own usage. Like each one of them could be used for something, but for the purpose of this project, we are going to go with something called .NET MAUI Blazor Hybrid app. And if you look at the description of this thing, it's pretty much exactly what I just told you. It runs like your application will run on iOS, it will run on Android, it will run on Mac, it will run on Windows, it will run on Tizen, all in one shot. Just build once, run everywhere. Truly, like the dream that Java wanted to have, you know, build once, run everywhere. This is it right here, except that it's actually building different binaries and different bits for every platform, which is such a hard job, but people did it. So let's start in here. What's the name of our project? Our project will be called ARK, right? .apps.mobile. Someone might ask, well, Hassan, you know, last time when you were building the RESTful API, you were building a system that's called ark.core.api. So how do I know which one is the right name? Well, if you're building backend things, the word core is probably a good name. Like if you're building backend APIs, libraries, SDKs, you know, things that will be used on the backend mainly, core is great because core basically means, you know, I am building something that's agnostic to the customer. It can be used in an enterprise system. It can be used in whatever. Like this part here, this part right here is what you call core. So whatever your project is, it would be project name like this. Let me expand this guy so you can see the thing. Project name dot like this. And then you go and say core, right? And then whatever your project is, processor, API, users, whatever you want to call it. In our case, it's just an API, it's just one API that runs the whole show. But for front end things, it's the same thing, project name, because that's the common thing. But then you go with apps dot, I don't know, web, mobile, whatever the case may be. In a while ago, you used to have to do something like this, project name dot data dot something, whatever that something may be, like a migration project and whatnot. But that all went away with the ORM, like object relational models and all that. You don't have to do none of that anymore. So that's where the naming convention is coming from if you're basically naming your projects. Of course, there's a ton of schools of thought when it comes to, you know, Hassan, which you know, I heard this other, you know, architect or other engineer saying that we should name our project this way or that way. You know, pick up the one that you like. There's tons of opinions and tons of ideas in the tech industry, which makes us even more powerful. I'm going with .NET 9, and I'm including some sample pages just to show you how cool this thing is. I'm going to run it on my mobile phone right now. Just as soon as you start a simple project, you can run it on your mobile phone. You can run it on your desktop. You can do whatever you want with it. And let's go ahead and create. I think it's gonna cut this thread and start a Visual Studio thread. Because, yeah, there you go. That's why you lost the share here on StreamYard. Let's go back to the project that we're in. Here you go. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit and let's look at what we have here. I'm just going to rebuild this project just to show you that this is a thing and it's giving you a hello world message and everything is good. Here we go. So you'll see here, it's building, like, let me kind of see if I can zoom this a little bit. So it's building binaries for Android, binaries for iOS, binaries for Catalyst, binaries for Windows. That's the power of it. It's doing all that. I've been having a little bit of trouble with the Java EXE for whatever reason, but I promise you the project actually did build. So how do you know the project built? Once the project stops building, you'll see at the top here at the play button at the top, you'll see it says Windows machine. It can also run on a simulation for an Android machine. I'll show you all of that in a second. Okay, so let's start it on the Windows machine. This is out of the box. I didn't do anything. I just created a project and did build, right? Watch this. Here's a full-blown Windows application, right, that can run on your mobile app as a Blazor MAUI hybrid application. Okay, but someone might say, well, Hassan, you could run anything on a Windows. You are using Visual Studio, you're using C#.NET. I don't see any magic here. Well, okay, fine. Let's run it on Android. So I'm gonna go in the drop down here and pick up. You can't see the drop down for some reason, but that little arrow right next to the play button in there, I'll go to Android emulator, and then I'm just gonna click play. You can see it up here. It says Pixel 6 Pro right there. So let's see what this guy has. The exact same thing that I just played is gonna run on an Android app. And then I'm gonna blow your mind a little bit. I'm gonna show you something even better than all that. Here we go. Here's my Android app. Here we go. So look what just happened. It's gonna render on the screen, the Android app. It's showing right here, but Visual Studio itself, I love this little touch. Said Hashimi, if you did this, I appreciate you for doing that. When you run your app, it will also render on Visual Studio, even though the app itself is running on my desktop and it's kind of emulator format, you still can see it in here. And that's an Android app. That's truly an Android app. So if I click like this, look, it's an Android app with all the apps in it like this. And I'm just rolling out this .NET application, which is this guy, right? That's exactly the hello world that you just saw in the HTML that's in here. So that's that little HTML that you see in here, hello world app. That's exactly it. I think it's even have a kind of hot reload. Like if I say reload like this, so I added just new content, and if I click that little fire button at the top, it'll actually update. Let's see if it you see it right there. See, it says reload right there. So hello world, welcome to a new app, and reload. So you can literally update your UI and update your HTML and see these changes happen in real time. Why is this super useful? Because UI is backend engineers will will appreciate me saying this. UI for a backend engineer is a nightmare, right? And a backend engineer looking at a div or a button and they want to centralize it, and there isn't just an enum that they can drop down that says centralize, that drives them crazy. So obviously being able to kind of just go up in here and basically add a button, right, in your mobile app. Let's just do this and say the button says okay, and just click save, and then hit the fire button, and then the button shows up and you actually can click on it. That's pretty wild, right? That's huge, especially for people who lived through the era where you had to actually write special code for all that. The cool thing about this is if I copy this and put it in a simple HTML, like a web application for Blazor MAUI, it works just fine, right? So that's basically the initialization of our project. Okay. Now let's get to the serious stuff. Okay, that's great. I can do a POC and I can roll up a content video in like a 10-minute video that shows you that you can build mobile apps in Blazor MAUI Hybrid. But what does it look like to actually productionize this thing, right? We need to actually architect and build this thing from the ground up, right? So for starters, let's just go ahead and start with something as simple as just cleaning up our project a little bit. So this is a hello world. You have your MAUI program. Okay, they don't have the comments in it and whatnot. Let's just kind of clean up some things. So I'm going to go here in the edit project. I'm going to disable the implicit using stuff. Disable that and disable nullable. Some people say, Hassan, these are cool features. Why are you disabling them? Well, because I don't want my business logic to be living somewhere where it shouldn't, right? I need to see If something is gonna check if something is null or not, it should happen with my permission, with my command, so I can test drive it and all that fun stuff. Okay, you're gonna lose a bunch of usings and your application is gonna cry a little, but eventually it's gonna come back to you and say, okay, this is all good. Don't forget the copyright stuff. You know, once you get used to building production-ready applications, you're gonna have to kind of always remember the um, uh, the you know the copyright stuff. So you wanna make sure you kind of honor the organization or the company or the people that you're working with, and make sure you kind of reference them when it comes to adding a shout out to these folks. So this is the shout out right here. There you go. So copyright, the standard organization, a coalition of good-hearted engineers. That's what we're building this for. Do I need to change anything here? I don't know. This is called Maui App Builder, so let's call it Maui App, actually the actual name instead of just a short name for it. These two liners, you know, this is a one-liner that doesn't need to be a one-liner. So I'm just gonna take it up here, do this. Just very, very simple things to clean the code. This is stuff that runs in debug. I need to get rid of that very soon, but now is not the time. And then let's just make sure our application still builds, because I took away some references. You're gonna see some things like these, like, oh, you know, you kind of missed out since you removed the implicit usings. Now they're all gonna come at you, right? They're all gonna be like, hey, you know, you need to fix this and that. That's fine. Let's do this. I think something very similar we'll see in this realm as well for the Windows application. We get to kind of give us a nice tour to the application, but also know what these implicit usings are actually doing to you. And when they have conflicts, how do we fix that, right? So here's that. What else? Other errors that we have? We have a couple more. Maui app compact activity. That sounds like something in the Android world. Yes, it is. There you go. Control KE will clean up things for you. And then let's add the file. Here you go. All right, controls. Let's do this too. What else are we missing? I like that, by the way, there's a limit on the amount of errors that Visual Studio can show you. In the ye old days, you know, as far as I remember, it'll show you the top 900, the top 99, but beyond that point, it's not going to show you anything else. Okay. Let's clean up some more. So this is this guy. Add this. Great. Anything else that we need to do? There's probably a couple of more errors. Here you go. See, all of this because I'm saying, hey, don't do this implicit using stuff. I want to know what my file is using, which is totally worth the endeavor. But for the people that kind of make this the default, just to look at how much time, you know, and before projects would kind of just kind of have all the usings in it, and I don't have to do that work. But now I have to catch up with the times. So here you go. Here you go. All right. Looks like we're all set. Let's give this guy a quick build. Yeah, the only thing is the Java issue, which is not an issue because when I run my application, it still runs, right? So, okay, it sounds like we have the initial project. This is all what we need to kind of just get a project up and running, right? This is the main page, the resources. I have all these main activity stuff that kind of help me kind of put the copyrights where they should be. We tried putting copyrights at the top of these pages, and that didn't end up well. So we'll just keep them open like that. There's also a bunch of pages in here, like a counter and home and weather and all that. You know, maybe it's a good idea to throw them out. You know, I don't know where that weather whether that weather application is talking. Yeah, it's actually see that all that stuff. Okay, let's throw that away. We don't need that weather stuff. I don't need the counter stuff either. That can go away as well. Routes. Okay, we have the routes. You have the imports. You have the home, navigation menu. I think we should get rid of the navigation menu as well. I just want a good blank page. Let's throw that out. I don't need the navigation menu. I don't need a help button. Yeah, that looks more like it. Let's run this application again, see if things still work after we just took out all that stuff. There we go. Yeah, see, just a blank application that says hello world. That's exactly what we want this application to be. Okay. I see Mabruk here says specify the builder type. Ah, did I forget something? Maui builder app. Oh yeah, that's right. Maui builder, Maui app builder. That's right. So Maui app builder. That's right. Good call. Thank you. So this is because the right side is not clear. So we don't know what this thing is, right? So here you go. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mabruk. This is a good call. Hey, Greg. Greg is back. All right. I should probably, in case people just kind of want to hop in, I'll just drop this in the chat if people want to kind of join in, and kind of chat together about the application. Okay. Okay. I want to create a repository for this work. I want to start kind of creating pull requests to kind of make sure that all that work that we're doing as we progress in it, that this work actually is stored and taken care of and all that. I created originally a mobile app for this, but I'm going to delete it. Sorry, a mobile repository. I'm going to delete this repository because I want to I want to create the repository from Visual Studio because it's much nicer this way. It's going to pop a warning on my phone and it's going to say, please, are you sure you actually want to delete this repository? Yes, I'm sure. I just deleted the repository. It's gone. Okay, so we have this. Let's start pushing that into source control for starters. So I'm just gonna click Git. It's gonna. How can I show you guys this screen? Add README file. Here's the screen. Here's what Visual Studio actually does to kind of help you. Oh, it's not even discoverable. It won't even let you. It's just a little tiny window on the screen. But I'm going to create the repo real quick, and then I'm going to show you the link because that's really all that matters, right? We want to, I want you to just be able to see the window, right? So Visual Studio, the visibility is public of this project. And then I'm going to say create and push. There you go. So it's just going to create a repository for us. And we should have a repository in here. So if I go into, let me find the web page that it created. So Visual Studio basically just created this for us. Here you go. Here it is. So we have this initial project, right? You have the mobile app, and I just kind of just instantiated it, right? So I'm assuming you have the ARK's core API, and now you have the ARK's mobile app. Now let's add more to it, right? We need the unit test project. We need to build the pipeline, all that fun stuff that we did last time. We should probably do that, right? So let's go up in here. Let's go here, and then let's do this. So here's my. Let's create a new branch. And my new branch, you can't see it, but it's users, Hassan, Habib, infra, initialize unit tests, right? So we're going to initialize a unit test project, just like we did last time. It's really important because it's standard compliant. You're going to find some redundancies here, but these are good redundancies. These are things that we want to have to make sure that someone wants to jump from the back end to the front end and back. They can actually do that nicely. So here you go. Unit test project. We're using XUnit for this. So here you go, XUnit test project. And then the same name, I know you can't see it. It's ark.apps.mobile.tests.units, like that. There you go. That's a nice mobile application. See, I know from the naming convention that I did something wrong because the unit test project should never go on top of your core project where you're actually doing the tests. So what did I miss here? I said ark.app instead of ark.apps. Okay, let's delete that guy and start over. Let's remove this. Make sure you remove it from your directory as well, because remember, Visual Studio is not going to actually remove the actual project for you. It's just going to remove the reference to it. So let's start a new project for XUnit. Just for the people who are wondering which template project I'm choosing. It's still not letting me. Well, that really sucks. Okay, fine. So XUnit test project, and then ark.apps.mobile.tests.units. There you go. That should go right under. There you go. That's how you know you're doing the right thing, because it's going right under the main project as you see it here in the screen. Okay. And then just like we did yesterday, we're gonna create a file called delete me, just we test our pipelines. And then in our pipelines, I'll just say should be true. So it's just a very simple example of a test that will tell us, yes, I can see your unit test and I know that it's actually going through, and condition in here. And then the value is true. So this is a dummy test that we put in there to test our pipeline, to make sure our pipeline are working as expected. The same thing with the unit test. I'm going to disable a bunch of things because they're annoying. And then this guy will probably fail because there are references in here that I haven't really put through. Let's give it a build. It should start squeaking. Unless I didn't disable the right things. Disable implicit usings. I guess it's fine. Oh, interesting. It still has this reference though, so I know that it's not fine. Nullable implicit using disable. Yeah, it looks fine. I'm actually surprised. It should call something at the top, but I guess it didn't. Also, that little thing should disappear, right? Because it's saying, hey, you're calling something from the global whatever. Okay, cool. Let's rebuild this. Looks like it's building, and then I'm just gonna put the copyrights in there. So let me, the exact same copyrights that we copied, the standard community, this coalition in here, and that's your unit test project. You don't want to add anything extra to your project unless you need to. Like, don't add libraries before you actually need to, because NuGet packages in Git pipelines are super slow for some reason, right? And we don't want to kind of take on that delay if we don't have to, right? So this is infra, initialize, unit tests, project. There you go. And then I'm just gonna commit all of this, so it hopefully will help me create a pull request. Here's a pull request. I don't have issues for it. Maybe Greg will help us create issues for it. But for the time being, I'm just gonna click create. And it's just gonna create a pull request for me. We're gonna review that pull request together. It's always a good habit to review your own pull request. Do that a lot. Because sometimes you're gonna push something that you're not supposed to, like a secret or something. You're not supposed to push a secret, right? It's even better to review before. Like, I worked with a bunch of the people that taught me Git, using Git as a tool, and then GitHub. They would always review, and they would review in the command line. They wouldn't need a tool like this to actually look at what files have changed. Great people, great mentors everywhere. Okay, so copyrights. This is the unit test project. It's all good. It's wonderful. Okay, so we created the unit test project. Let's merge that guy in. And then let's start with creating the next thing. The next thing is your infrastructure build project, just like we did last time, right? I'm even going to copy that code. I don't have to create it again because you already saw that, but let's just do that together. So add new project. It's a simple console application, and it's ark.mobile, right? .infrastructure, right? .mobile.app, sorry, ark.apps.mobile.infrastructure.build. So that's the build pipeline. It's a very simple console application, but we're going to add some stuff to it that will make it generate the build pipeline for us. Okay. So let's clean it up a little. Disable again. Just extra added things that we have to do here to make things work. And then this guy's gonna squeak because I don't have the system thing. I think we're gonna get rid of it in a second. But if you remember, the last time we built this project, we already did that. We did something very similar to that, that will generate the stuff that we have in a library called a.NET, right? So I'm gonna go into our manage NuGet packages, and I'm gonna look for a.NET. The latest version of this library will give you like a fluent way of building C#.NET. You're building C#.NET pipeline basically, and you're writing it in C#.NET, which is amazing, right? So let's install this guy. Here we go. just like this. And then we know that this is working like that. Now I just want to start using it, right? So let me show you what we did in the previous project, so you kind of get a look and feel, and you don't have to sit through me building that code again. It'll be just very straightforward this way. So let me find the previous project. It's ARK API. I think I called the previous one solution just ARK. I don't know why I did that, but I should have probably called the solution ARK API specifically, but here it is. Remember in the previous API, if you look, let me go to main and get latest, because I know we did some changes there. But if you remember in the build, right, the build here, we built that really nice code in there. Let me explain it to you one more for people who haven't actually seen it. It's basically C#.NET code that will basically go and say, here's my project build on push on pull request. So start the build pipeline when new code is being pushed into main and when a pull request is created against main or master branch, right? And then start adding some steps in here. Make sure it runs on a Windows application. Go ahead and check out the code, pull the code, add the .NET setup. This is the .NET version we want to run with. Restore your NuGet packages, run the build, and then run the test. That's it. That's all you have to do, right? Let's steal that code actually and do the same thing, or steal some of it, because I don't want to change the namespace stuff. So I'm just going to steal that code. If you build your code clean enough, you'll see like how awesome it is that you can just go and reuse some of your code. If you really care about these things, that's the beauty of the standard. You build code that you know is you're going to be able to reuse. Let's see here, build pipeline. I think I copied, I removed too much. There you go. Here's my code right here. It's build machines. It's from A.NET. Here you go. This is the whole thing, right? I didn't have to change anything with it. I just need to add copyrights in here. And that's all. Here you go. Control KE will clean up this code for me. And now you have the project. Now, is it gonna generate stuff for me? Let's find out. Let's just make this our startup project. And then I'm gonna run it, and it's just gonna generate things for me. I probably need to change the name. So instead of it saying ARK Core API build, it will be ARK Apps Mobile Build. That's probably a better name. And then everything else should be the same. Okay, so let's run this again. If you look in here, if you switch to the folder view in Visual Studio, you will notice that it created a GitHub folder for you. And this GitHub folder is sit inside of a workflows folder, and it has this .NET build file in it. And that .NET build file basically is the YAML. I didn't have to write one code in YAML. Everything here, and I think Mabruk he basically went above and beyond with this library, because in addition to these steps, you can actually add something like a custom step, add custom, let's see, step, builds, add generic step. That's what he called it, add generic step. And in that generic step, you can give it a name like this, and then you can basically say a command. So run a command. And that command can literally be anything you want. Just how flexible this library is. You know, if you're a C#.NET developer, you don't want to learn YAML or anything like that. I mean, we're doing the same thing with SQL, so why wouldn't we do the same here? That's exactly the same thing. But the thing that matters, though, and the thing that we still don't have an answer for, is to be able to debug pipelines, right, on your local machine. There's probably a way to do it. We just don't know what it is yet. You know, I mean, a GitHub agent is basically someone to a GitHub pipeline is basically an agent running an operating system, which what you have on your local machine. Could it be Dockerized? Could you run your pipeline in a Docker component? Sure. The only difference is that this YAML talks to something that's pre-installed on that agent that you don't have, right? That goes and pulls these tasks for you. That's the weakness of it, right? That's the missing piece of it, is that when you go and say, you know, go ahead and check out this code. Okay, pre-installed Git on that agent. When you go and say, go ahead and install .NET, okay, pre-install the command lines that will actually pull Git and actually install it on your machine. So many different things, right? So many different things. Okay. Greg just Greg just asked me to add him to the new repo so I can kind of so he can help us with a lot of these things. I'm just going to add Greg to the repo real quick, and then we will continue. Gregory Hayes, my favorite person. So let's do this. See, my favorite person. I can never. Is it GLH Hayes? I think. Yeah, I found you. Okay, Greg added. I have a question here from Ali. He says, does it give you a powerful control as Java or Swift does? It gives you, well, you know, I have yet to see something that Swift or Java is doing on Android or iOS application that this doesn't, right? Like the beautiful thing about this is that if you want to do something specific to Android or iOS, it'll let you do it, right? There's already interfaces that kind of go back and forth with that. But I'll be honest with you, like I've built so far 3 major enterprise mobile applications, and I have yet to see or need something that I went and said, oh, sorry, that the Java does it, but C# is not going to be able to do it in Blazor MAUI. I didn't run into that yet. You know, especially when you're playing audio, like let's say playing audio on a mobile application that's running Android is different than playing audio on a mobile application that's running iOS versus the web, right? It'll give you that kind of power to go and actually interface, like natively work with that interface. And that's the real power of MAUI Blazor. It basically lets you talk to the actual native code in the operating system that you're running in, whether it's Windows, iOS, or Linux, which is basically Android, right? I mean, iOS itself is Linux as well, but you know they have their own infrastructure and whatnot. Just a very long answer to answer, kind of long way of answering your question. It does for what you need. I haven't run into a situation where I went and said, oh, I can't do this because I'm not using Java or Swift. But who knows? There might be things out there that we don't know how to do yet, but not something that I can see here at the moment. Okay, so I did build that project. I forgot to take a new branch, right? I forgot to go to master main. So since I'm the only one that's working on that project right now, I think it's okay to branch off of the branch. So infra, build, initialize, right? So I'm initializing the build project. Here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and continue to checkout. I'm gonna create a commit. Here you go. So this is your build. This is the build project. It looks beautiful. Infra, initialize, build project. Let's go here, and then we're gonna create all and push. And then that guy is gonna kind of tell me, hey, do you want to create a pull request? Let's create a pull request, infrastructure, initialize, build project, and then I'm gonna create the pull request just like that. Let's go back to the build request and review what we built. See how, you know, even if you're working alone, if you're working step by step and creating pull requests and commits, it kind of talks a lot about, you know, how much you care about the code that you're building and, you know, the history of it and how did you come to it. The funniest thing is when you see a project that starts with init, like init commit, and then the rest of the project and the other commit, and it has like 5,000 files in it. It makes it very hard to kind of track or trace how the project was built. It's very, very difficult. Okay, so check this out. We have the build, so ARK apps mobile build, amazing. We have the execution, .NET 9, disable, whatever, and we have all that fun stuff in there. Now we just want to make sure that this build project actually runs, right? Because with MAUI, you might need a little bit more than just kind of running a .NET build in here, right? You might need just a tiny bit more. We'll come back to that guy. Let's go to, just for the interest of time, I don't want people to be just sitting there waiting on the stream. So let's just keep the ball rolling, right? Let's start building brokers that are utility brokers. They're not mandatory brokers that we need to call an API, but we definitely need to be able to build the service that will call the API. One of these is the easiest one, which is the logging broker. You guys remember that logging broker? Let's go and create a new branch. Users, Sun, and then brokers logging. We need logging, right? Your application need to log errors at some point. So let's go ahead and create a new folder in here. I'm going to call this folder brokers. And then under that folder, I'm going to say loggings like that. And then I'm going to kind of call my logging broker. So here we go. This is my code. I'm building an interface. It's called iLogging broker. See, you're building enterprise applications. They're done showing just fun things anymore, and you're actually going to go through it. You're going to actually build the actual application that people will be using, right? So here you go, the logging broker, like that. Add the header. There you go. This guy inherits from iLogging broker, right? And then this broker uses what? It has, you know, the methods for logging errors, logging information, logging trace, right? Looks like Greg is keeping up with me, creating issues so I can close these issues. Fantastic. Okay, let's do this. So logging broker, I remember this is just another thing that we can actually ship from the previous project. We had a bunch of these methods right here: log information, log trace, log debug, warning, error, and critical. Okay, Control KE will clean up the usings that we don't need. Here you go. I'm only doing this because we have done this before, but please don't copy pasta code. It'll bite you when you least expect, especially if you're using AI. It'll definitely bite you when you least expect. And then the implementation of it's pretty much the same. And you know, if I'm trying to kind of send a message to you, I'm basically saying, hey, look, you know, this implementation, back end and front end, are starting to look more and more the same, every day, right? And that's the point of creating an engineering standard, is to make sure that you're not too it's not too different. You don't have to learn something extra to make this work, right? Okay, we get this warning, the warning about the async task. We did that last time. I'll just go up in here and say no warn, right? So let's do this. No warn. I hope I get it right this time. Is it CS 1998? I hope it works this time. CS 1998. I'm basically saying, don't warn me about not awaiting for value task. And I think this is honestly a bug, because value task means value or task. So if I'm returning a value, I shouldn't get a warning that I'm not awaiting a task. That's the whole point of it. Anyway, fix the problem. That's great. Do I have my logging broker? I think not everything. I still need to add logging here somewhere, right? So basically, MAUI builder, services, add logging, right? Here you go. And then MAUI builder dot services, add transient iLogging broker, and logging broker, which is the implementation of it. There you go. And then let me kind of break things a little bit like this. There you go. Perfect. Perfect and pretty. Remember last time I was saying I really don't like the fact that when you click implementation in the logging broker, the the code, or the kind of, what do you call it, the scaffolding capability in Visual Studio won't give you the exact same order. Like, we put the order here intentionally as information, trace, debug, warning, error, and critical. So it's getting worse as you dig deeper, right? But when you go and say control period and implement this, it kind of throws it all over the place. Log critical, log debug, log error. It just shuffles it up. So Greg is so nice and kind. He went and basically reordered it for us. Oh, I even copied he even gave me the whole too much and too little. Okay, hold on. So he basically went and copied and ordered these themselves. You see what the community does. Like, you're working in a community and people are helping you out with the code as you're building your code. You know, software is so much fun with people when you're building it with people. Copy pasta will kind of ruin your tabs, at least for this first one, but the rest of those are pretty cool. Very, very cool. Okay, quick question for people that are watching. Do you like it when your class is like this and it has a constructor that's separate from it? Or do you want to do the new thing where you do kind of use block body and do it like a, no, not this, not the block body, to use as primary constructor, which is something that came from Scala. Mainly, look, like your class now is the constructor. The problem that I have personally with this is that it's super confusing, right? Like your eye will always go into the very next thing to look for your private class members. And it's so strange that your private class members that you're defining in here are being instantiated within a class that has the methods in it. It's just kind of, it's a completely, like the pattern here is just really hard to kind of wrap your head around. I think we also discussed this last time, but I think it's worth touching on that again since we are on this page and we're building this logging broker. Okay. Now let's commit that. Let's go and create a brokers and then basically say initialize logging broker, right? And we added all the stuff about the broker in here. I'm going to say commit all and push. And then I'm going to create a pull request in Visual Studio. And Greg already created an issue for us. So I'm just going to go ahead and say closes hash. And then it's going to pop initialize. Oh, I see initialize per project. Greg, do you have a, I don't know if he has, oh, login broker is number 5. Perfect. Okay. It didn't pick it up yet, but we know what it is. So let's create. And then let's go to the pull request and see what happens. What happens to the pull request? Here we go. Let's go back here. Let's go to our project. Here's the logging broker. It closes number 5. If you click on number 5, it'll tell you this is the logging broker right here. Boom, boom. Merge, merge. Done. What happened to our friend? What happened to our initialized build project? See, I told you, remember, like mobile apps are a little bit different. So why is this guy angry? It says to build this project, the following workloads must be installed MAUI Android, right? And then another one. So let me kind of show you what are we going to do about this. It's okay. It's not so bad. We can fix this problem together, right? I think what we really gonna need is a step in the middle, like a generic step. And this generic step will basically go and say .NET restore workload, right? And that should do that trick for us, right? But I want to kind of confirm the language for you here, because this is the big part about this. I don't want you to kind of look at this and be like, well, you know, it's not going to build for me because the pipeline is developed in a particular way. No, that's not it. There's a tiny change that we have to do, and I'm going to show you what this change is very, very shortly, and then everything will just work fine. Yeah, so there is a little step called installing .NET MAUI with the .NET workload, and that's where these generic kind of steps come into play. Let's go fix that. Let's go fix that guy. So let's go back into Visual Studio. And then remember our little project. So if I go into build init, that's our build init. And in the program CS for the build, I'm gonna go add one tiny step. It's not a big step, but it's a very important step. And that step comes right after you install the .NET 9 and before you do the restore. So add generic step right here. And that step is going to be called install .NET MAUI. Okay. And then in the command itself, let's break it apart a little bit. So this is the name, sure. And then the actual run command will be basically .NET workload like this, and then install MAUI. Let's see if that does the trick for us. Let's see here. So now what do I need to do? I need to just run this build. So set as a startup project right here. And then let's run this guy. It will generate the YAML for me and everything will be good and dandy. We all go home. Here you go. I go back to the non-solution view of Visual Studio. And then we open up that little, .NET YAML. and look at added that for me. Name install .NET MAUI, .NET workload install MAUI. If you remember, the error that we got in the pipeline was literally talking about that. So let's just do this. We're going to go and say infra add its configuration config add .NET MAUI workload install. And because there is already a an open pull request, I don't have to create that pull request again. Funny story, Greg. While you're watching this, I have the PR locally, but also I see the show comments on file and whatnot, which is awesome. Now let's see. This guy is gonna kick off the build again, and hopefully this time that will be the solution. And you can worry less about kind of, oh well, Hassan, if I actually want to build this and I want to put it in a pipeline for productionization, is this gonna work? I hope so, right? If you also look, like, just to understand, if you look at the build, the last build, it kind of tells you, right? It says, hey, the following workloads must be installed MAUI Android. So when you say workload install MAUI as a whole, it'll install it for everything, for every target machine you want to kind of work with. So hopefully that will fix the problem for us. I'll let that guy cook here in the background, and we will go build other things, right? So remember, now that we just initialize the world, basically, let's go back and start actually building the things about this particular project, right? I mean, in general, I'd really hate for like a boilerplate work to take an hour, which what it took from this stream, but I'm also talking while I'm doing things for you. So in general, if I'm doing this while I'm being quiet, it'll probably take 20 minutes. But also I have to say, Greg is helping me kind of push through things, Greg and Mabruk and all the teams. So okay, so let's go back to the architecture. Okay, I did a logging broker, fantastic. Right now I need an API broker. I need a broker that basically goes and hits that ARK API endpoint and gives me back the arcs, the acts of random kindness. It's a list of acts of random kindness, and I'm going to pull these back, put them in a carousel on the mobile app, and people get to swipe right and left to see, what's the next arc, what's the one from yesterday, what's the one from today. You get the idea about the app right now, right? So let's do this. Let's create a new branch. So users, Hassan, Habib, brokers, and then ARK, get all. So we're doing a get all arcs kind of an API call. Another tiny thing that you should probably know, when you're building something that's going to run inside of a mobile app, you're not going to be able to use the classic RESTful Sense SDK. You're going to need to use the WebAssembly one, right? And the WebAssembly one, because this is basically rendering as a WebAssembly app inside of your application. So you're not going to be able to just go and say, well, and just install RESTful Sense, which is this .NET library that we're using to kind of make the API call. We're going to have to get the WebAssembly one. Thanks to Brian Parker for kind of developing that. He even developed it. I didn't even ask for it. He's just like, we need a WebAssembly, a Blazor WebAssembly. So we're going to need to make API calls, and here's RESTful Sense with WebAssembly. Here we go. So there's the super popular one, which is the one that has like 5 million, half a million downloads, right? And then there's, well, not half a million, it's like 400,000. But then there's this one, and this one, if you're building mobile apps, hopefully after you watch this video, you are inspired and encouraged to go build mobile applications and not to be scared to build a mobile app, or say, I don't know, because this is literally the step-by-step. And then you're going to need this library, and hopefully it has more views in it. Okay, WebAssembly. So I need the ARK API, so ARCs, right, under ARCs, and then I'm going to go and say ARK API broker. So let's go here and create a class, ARK API broker. I need an interface first, though. Interface iARK API broker. There you go. So it's just a simple interface. Cool. Control KE, clean up that stuff, make that guy partialized. Great. And then the other one is the implementation, which is the concrete. So ARK API broker. There you go. Added. Great and beautiful. And then we want this guy is also going to be partial, because we're going to be calling specific things in this in this like specific models. Like today we're calling arcs, but tomorrow we're going to call the comments on the arc. We're going to call the images and the videos attached to the arc. So always think you want to like Yagni. Sure, the concept of you're not going to need it or Yagni is great, but also just keep in the back of your like keep your options open. Don't program yourself in a corner. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, do not program yourself in a corner. Okay, let's build this guy. So what do I need? I need an HTTP client. So this is HTTP client. That's what this RESTful Sense library is going to do. It's going to use this HTTP client, put a wrapper around it, and make sure that when exceptions happen, or exceptions occur, it gives you an actual proper exception instead of this crappy, oh, HTTP response error, and then you have to check the code for each and every one of them. It's just not clean. It's not good. You're going to appreciate this more when we start building the foundation service. I'll tell you that much. So private read-only, and then RESTful API factory client. So that's my RESTful API factory client. I don't know why I wrote it this way. It's really ugly. RESTful API factory client. Here you go. And then do I need something else? I need the configuration. So private read-only I configuration, and that's our configuration that we'll be kind of injecting into that little constructor, right? CTOR will do that for you. Instead of doing that, if you kind of highlight all of these, well, not all of them. I just want these two, the iRESTful, the HTTP client and the I configuration. So I'm going to highlight these two and do control period and generate constructor. And it's going to generate a constructor for me with both of these input parameters, just like that. Okay, this guy we're going to need later, right? We're going to need that guy in a little bit. Okay, what else do I want to do? I want to kind of configure, like in order for me to create this guy, I need a method in here that will do that for me. So let me kind of go and do this. I'm going to go and say private iRESTful API client, and then get RESTful API client. I think the F is lowercase. I don't remember. And then we basically, I want the API base URL. So that's the API, the endpoint that I'm going to be calling, that little RESTful API that we built, the ARK core API. And then I'm going to go and say this dot configuration dot get value, right? And the value is a string, which is the URL. And then I'm going to go look for that particular URL in here, which is what it's going to be, the ARK API base address. Okay. And then what? Let's put this into the HTTP client. So my base address in here is a new URI. Let's take that out. And that URI will take that API base URL like this. And then the last thing is to go back and say new RESTful API, new RESTful API factory client, and then put the HTTP client in it, and we're done. So that means if I go here and say this dot RESTful API get RESTful API client, we're done here. Okay, I don't like methods with billies, like I said, so let's just kind of take it into a new level here. So just like that, I basically built something that will be able to go and call an API, but not just that. When an exception happens, when an error occurs, I'll be able to handle that exception because of the beauty of RESTful Sense. Okay, there's of course a ton of .NET libraries and NuGet packages out there that will kind of give you the same capability, but this is part of it. This is one part of that. Okay, but before I wrap up on this API call, I need to create a generic method that will give me the get all stuff, right? So it's generic. I want to be able to get a list of things. So I'm going to go here and say, just like I did, do you remember with the storage broker in the API, I said insert, delete, select all of these generic methods that you will be able to use it later with a specific type. It's the same thing. So private async value task of type, whatever that type may be, and then get async. That's the thing that I'm trying to pull. And then in here, I want the relative URL. So the relative URL that I'm calling to give me that. And then I can get that from the RESTful API client. So await this .RESTful API client .get content async with that type with the relative URL. Done. This little call here is what's going to go and call API/arcs, and it's going to give me back the list of arcs that I need, which we're going to build in a second. Okay, I initialize the API broker. Now I need to create the partials, right? So let's go back to the interface. So here's code, interface, ARK API broker.arks.cs. That's the one interface that I need right now, the partial one. And this guy has value task of a list of ARK. I don't have the model yet. I need that model. Let's go and create a new folder for that guy. And let's call it models. And then under that guy, under the models, I'm going to create another folder. I'm going to call it ARKs. And then I'm going to create a class called ARK. There you go. So what was the ARK model look like? You know, I mean, usually I don't advise people to kind of build it by hand if it's already done somewhere. But since we know what it is, you know, it's probably helpful to just kind of write it again in front of everyone. So they just see what I'm talking about, right? We had a date and we had an act, right? And one of them is a date time offset, right? Date time offset, date, and then string act. And we kept that act, which is the act of kindness, super generic because it can carry any data, any content we need, no problem. Okay, so going back to my interface then, it's a list of arcs and get all arcs async. That's your method right here. And let's do the same thing for the implementation. So I'm going to go here, create a class, ARK API broker dot arks.cs. So that what's going to be implementing that interface method that I just created. And then this guy is partial, internal partial. And I want to say public async value task list of arcs, right? Get all arcs async. See, when you're following a particular naming convention, things get a lot easier, right? Get async, that's the content, and that's your ARK model. And then we want to pass the base URL, which is a constant, right? So constant string, what is it? ARK API base URL, ARKs API base URL, and that's API/ARKs, like that. Okay, it's a const, so we can throw it in here. And then I need to await that guy. Control KE, clean things up. This guy's supposed to return a list of arcs. That's right. There you go. And now all happy. So which part of this am I building, Hassan? You kind of lost me there. Where are we now, right? On the map. Well, the map is very important. Let's go back to the map. This is which part we're in. Going back here. We're building that little guy right here. Get all arcs async. So that guy is basically completed. I will mark it as green because I'm optimistic about it, but the guy is basically done, right? Because that's basically what we just created, right? Let's go back here into the code and let's just finish it up because we know that the bigger part of it is done. So you still need to kind of register that broker, right? So I'm going to go here, just like I did with the logging broker. I'm going to go and say MAUI app builder dot services add transient ARK API broker right here. And this is done like this. Let's see why it's complaining. Services add transient. Let's see. What is it saying? Cannot used as a type parameter implementation. Let's see why. Why are you angry? Usually just figuring this out off the top of your head is a better idea, but let's just see why it's not happy. Oh, I never told it to implement the interface. Now it's going to be happy. This is actually a pretty nice feature in this thing, but let's go back here. It should be happy now, I think. No, still add transient. Yeah, it should be happy. Okay. I think also one other thing that we need to do here is to basically tell it about or register the HTTP context, right? You need to kind of go and say add HTTP client, right? So MAUI Blazor dot services add HTTP client. So this is saying initialize that little guy that we're going to be injecting later, that HTTP client that we looked at in the concrete implementation, that guy right here, HTTP client, where's that coming from? How is that got registered? It's this guy right here. All right. Okay, so we have all of this said and done. Let's kind of ship that guy. Let's ship it. So brokers, get all ARKs, right? I have the right branch. I have everything in place. Let's go ahead and push that guy. And Greg just told me very graciously of him that he already created the issue for it. Let me just kind of modify it. Well, it's not letting me. Yeah, there you go. Closes number. I don't know if it would allow me to, Greg, I don't know if it'll allow me to close two at the same time, but I will try. Do I just say closes again and then hash? Does it search by words? Oh, it does. That's wild. Is it showing this on the screen? If I type data, it takes a tiny second, but it happens. Ah, it did. Oh, there it is. There it is. It's just not showing on the screen. That's the only bad part about it. So if I just type data like this, I can just select it. Come on. That's number 8. There you go. Oh man, Visual Studio. Visual Studio, man, I tell you. Okay, let's take that back here. And let's get the get this. Like I said before, Greg says yes, it will close. It will close both if you do 2 lines. Wonderful. Wonderful. It is nice. It's very nice. Let's review our code. Just maybe we forgot something. So we have the ARKs API / ARKs. We have the API base address. We have get all ARKs. We have all that fun stuff. It's all here. It's all right here. I love it. I love it. Okay. Do we need to do something else about, let's see here. We told it go and read the configurations, right? I don't know, maybe it's probably useful if I just kind of gave people the, does it work if I just gave people the URL, but we don't have a URL yet, right? We don't have a URL yet, so it just probably doesn't make sense to kind of hard code a URL in the app settings for this app. Look at that. Look who just joined us. Christo. All right. So, okay. Okay, so we joined, we kind of merged the API, but going back to our friend here, still angry. The build project still angry. Let's see why. We'll give it another try and see why it's angry. What is it saying here? It's saying you intended to execute a .NET program, but .NET workload does not exist. .NET workload does not exist. You intended to, okay. Let's let Copilot tell us what to do then, because that's as far as I remember. The correct command should be .NET workload. It says you have a typo. Oh my God, look how crazy AI is. So what's my typo? .NET workload. Oh, I wrote warload. AI is wild, Greg. I'll tell you that. How wild is that? It took me exactly the, if you want to see how useful AI is, that's it right there, right? Instead of going back and forth, it just tells me right there and then, here's your problem, dude. You have a typo in your pipeline. That's what it is. Let's go back and add this. Is it actually true? I don't believe it. So if I go into my pipeline, the infrastructure build initialization, and I go into the program, oh, you're not kidding. It says workload. So let's do that. Workload. Okay. So let's run this. Amazing. Amazing stuff. Very useful. All right. Here we go. And then I'm just going to update this. I'm going to go and say configs, yeah, configs, fix fix command spelling. There. This is for the pipeline to make sure that we actually have the right bits for MAUI. I can't wait to also show you like the part about being able to publish that as part of your pipeline into iOS store and Android store and all that fun stuff. So let's just see how far that will take us, right? I probably should also kind of keep that guy up to date, like up to date with the main branch. So let me do that old school, right? So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna say get pull origin master. Does that work? Yeah, it did. Merge by ORT strategy. There, it just merged it for me. So now I have the latest because I'm working in kind of two threads at the same time, and I don't want my branch to get out of date. So if I go back into our little friend here, the pipeline here, it should probably work fine right now. So if you go here, pull requests, close that guy. See, it should have merged with master. So I have all the latest and greatest, and it's just showing me just my code. Amazing. So dot workload install MAUI, and then in the YAML itself, it basically says .NET workload install MAUI. Fabulous, just fantastic. Okay, what's the next step? Okay, it's like I said, it's like playing the Crystal Maze here. If any of you remember that British TV show, I don't know. Actually, Crystal might remember that. Crystal, do you remember that show, Crystal Maze, from a long time ago? This whole architecture thing that we're doing looks a lot like it. So here's the next step, which is basically an ARK service. We want a foundation service. And what this foundation service is going to do, it's going to call into that broker and try to pull that information for me, basically. So this service main responsibility is to talk to the broker and pull all these ARKs in their native format. But the additional thing about this service is that it's going to handle the exceptions, all these HTTP request exceptions. It's going to do that fun stuff for me. So let's go ahead and start that service. Let's go into Visual Studio. Here's our mobile app. Here we go. And then I'm going to go into master branch. I'm going to pull latest because of that thing that we just merged, which is the brokers, logging, ARKs. Very beautiful. All the code is here, standard compliant. You can pick it up and modify it, work with it. It's under the standard license. Do whatever you want with it. Okay, now let's add a new folder here. And now this new folder is going to be the services. And under services, we are building a foundation service. So this is foundations. And then under the foundations, we are going to be adding a tiny little service here called the ARK service. ARK service. There you go. An ARK service will have a value task list of ARKs. It's going to be returning a list of ARKs and retrieve all ARKs async. That's all that it's doing. Retrieve all ARKs async. Control KE, clean things up. Great. Let's go into the concrete implementation of this. So this is ARK service. Someone might say, Hassan, well, why don't you just copy the ARK service that you have in the API? Well, this one is very different. This one, the other one handles SQL exceptions. It'll have its own validations exception. This is a client. So it's dealing with HTTP response exceptions, configuration errors, all that kind of fun stuff. So that's why, even though they have the same name, they're actually doing something completely different in terms of exception handling and all that. Okay, so I pulled that guy in and I said, have it at the implementation level. We're going to test drive that like we do all our software. But before that, I need to pull in my dependencies. So what are my dependency? ARK API broker. So that's one. And the other one is logging broker, which is this guy. Okay. Let's go ahead and roll out a constructor for this guy. So generate a constructor. Please don't use underscores in your private class members. That's a bad idea. Don't do that. And that would be it. Now we just need to start writing tests. Remember, we initialized the unit test project for that. So this is a great chance to start actually doing that stuff. So I'm going to go here and say create new services, foundations in the unit test area. Here's another folder called foundations. And then under foundations, I'm going to create a new class. I'm going to call it ARK service tests, ARK service tests, like that. Here you go. This service is going to be partial, of course, private, read only, mock, ARK broker, API broker. So this is ARK API broker mock. So that's how we're going to mock this guy. And then private, read only, mock again, logging broker. So that's logging broker mock. Even if we add the dependencies here, you're going to notice something interesting about this is that, remember, we talked about this last time, is that even if you add this, it's still not going to recognize the models. It's going to give you the highlight, but it's not going to recognize the model because they're internal, right? They're internal models. How do we expose internal models to particular projects of our choosing? Remember, there's this thing called friends, assembly friends. If you go into assembly friends and basically go, let's just throw it somewhere. We can put it in here at the bottom of your CS proj. And I copied that from the API, but I need to change this to basically say apps.mobile, right? And then tests.units. And now suddenly this guy will be recognizable. Watch this. If I go and do control period, there you go, add reference to this. It says, it's telling me which reference do you want me to add? Like there's so many of them, right? Which one do you want me to add? I think I'm okay with just kind of adding the reference. And this is even new to me. Like I don't remember it having to select which particular platform you need to target. It's probably a good thing because if you want to do specific tests that are targeting Android specifically, is going to be significantly, it may be significantly different from targeting iOS or Windows or whatever the case may be. I think I'm fine with Windows for now. So I'm gonna just go and say add the Windows one. Let's see if that fixes it. No, it didn't. Let me remove that reference and try to add it again. Add project references, mobile, add. And then it's kind of complaining about something. If I hover over this, does it give me any indication or anything? What if I just said using ark.apps.mobile brokers? Will it let me do that? It's not happy with it. Let's see how we're going to fix that problem. So, well, first of all, let me kind of install mock just to kind of alleviate or figure out some of the things that we're not sure of yet. So here's mock. Let's do that real quick. There we go. Mock, install. Of course, with Visual Studio, when it gets stuck like that, just jump between the tabs. I'll just pull it down for you. So mock, did it actually install it? It doesn't look like it did. Let's see what the problem is. The namespace broker, whatever. It's not happy because it can't build the project. Let me take this out for a second. And let's comment this area here real quick. And let's go add mock again. Let's do this. I'll remove the project here temporarily. I'll go and add mock to this project. There you go. Let's go here, and then let's go into now if I go and do Control U, Control Shift U, what was the thing to comment and uncomment? So Control U, let's see, Control C. I don't remember actually, but anyway, I'll do Shift like this, and I'll just select a couple at the same time. So I don't know. Oh, it did. It lowercased everything because I did R and whatnot. Okay, let's pick up the mock piece first. So okay, we have the mock. That's great. And now Control KU. That's right. That's right. And then let's go and kind of pull these interfaces themselves So how are we going to do this? It basically says, well, I don't know which one you want to target. And if I target the Android or the Windows one, that's what I was trying to do, targeting the Windows one, but it's not happy with it for some reason, right? So it's definitely treating it as a different kind of project. I might need a special kind of unit test project for it. I don't know yet. We're going to figure that out. Let's see what the errors say. This is a good learning thing for all of us. Are you missing a reference? No, I'm not. I'm not missing a reference. Maybe our friends, let's see, ARK apps mobile, and then .tests, .units. Interesting. And it still doesn't see it. Okay, just for the intents and purposes of basically going and saying this is not a friend's problem, this could be a different kind of problem. I will make my interface external. I'll make it public and see what happens. Let's do that. So this is going to be public as well, right? And this guy's complaining because ARK itself as a model is not public. So I'll make that guy public as well, right? And Greg says maybe register the dependency. No, that's not it. It can't see it at all, which is a problem. We'll find out why that is in a second. So if I go and say I wanna register the Windows one, but for some reason it doesn't like it. It doesn't recognize it as a unit test project, right? It basically says which one are you trying to add, right? Also, additionally, I don't see specifically like the, let's see, if I just add the project as a reference, that should do the trick for us. But there's a warning in here. I wonder if I just did a rebuild. This could be a rebuild issue. Let's do that. Let's just rebuild. Little problems, tiny problems. Come on. If it gives us this Java error, that's not a problem. The Java part is not an issue. Yeah, I know that it's building it ARK apps mobile DLL under Win10 x64. So I know that guy is there, which is great. But in here, it's basically saying project ark.apps.mobile is not compatible with .NET 9 project. So maybe there's a new type of projects that I'm not aware of. Let's find out. Let's find out what this deal is. Because without unit tests, I don't want to build it. We're gonna have to have unit tests, right? So it's not letting me kind of share specifically the window that pops up for the particular test, but I wonder if there's like a special one for a project to create unit test app for universal Windows platforms. I see something like that. I also see XUnit test project. That's the generic thing that everyone has, and nothing specifically for MAUI, which makes me think like it should be the same, right? But that didn't work out. Christo says internals visible. No, we're already done that. I know I'm running fast, but internals visible too. We're already done that, right? ark.apps.mobile.test.units. We already done that part. The difference here is that this XUnit project that we have, this guy is not very happy. I think I know why. I think I know why the reason. So you see how the target framework at the top here is kind of saying, hey, this is a pure .NET project, and I think it might need to target other platforms. I think it needs to say something else other than just saying .NET 9. I'm not sure, right? This is new, right? So let's see if that's really the case. Who can help us with this? Let's go into the error area here, and let me copy that error. Let's put AI to work. Let's see if AI can help us out. How to fix this? How to fix this issue? Here, let's let's let someone burn quite a bit of energy just to fix that. Yeah, see, that's what I expected. See what it did? It went to the target framework and it said, hey, you probably should add all these other frameworks in here so it can run against that too. See what it just did in here? That's new. That wasn't there in some of the original Maui projects that I had to build. So okay, fine. At least we know what it is now. So okay, so let's go here. Hopefully that will make it happy. We will find out real fast. Let's see. Okay. Let's give it a quick build. It says done building the project. Okay, now let's see if it'll actually do that for us. Doesn't like it. It says .NET ARK's mobile is not compatible with .NET 9 project mobile apps, supports this and that. The project target framework is this and that. Value, it says this value is not valid. To multi-target Windows frameworks probably instead. So it doesn't want to target multiple platforms at the same time. What if I just kept it to the Windows one and see if that works? Let's go take all that junk out and just let it target the Windows piece of it. Maybe. Oh, look, I see something's changing down here. I think I still need to say .NET 9 though. Hold on. Yeah, .NET 9 and then the Windows part of it. Okay, so let me take that and then kind of go back here and just do a semicolon and do that. Would that work? Come on, you can do it. Anything? I mean, the good part of it is that in here, yeah, this guy's gonna recognize this right away. Like if I go here and basically say ARK API project, it'll be, oh yeah, dude, I know what that is. So we fixed half of that problem, just half of it, right? The other half is where we basically go and say, how do we make it still also recognize the generic .NET stuff that we have? Because now these guys are saying your project doesn't make any sense to us, right? I wonder if it's an order thing. So basically, let's find out the error. So if I go and rebuild this, yeah, it's basically the target framework NET 9 and NET 9 Windows is not valid. To multi-target, use target frameworks. Oof, 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 oof. It's just a really simple, okay, fine. Let's do this. So it's a plural versus singular kind of thing. Sure. Frameworks like that. Is that really all I needed to do? Reload projects. Reload faulted projects. Okay. But where's my libraries? So under the Windows, does it have the packages still? Yeah, it does. But will it recognize, let's see, little hiccup. Let's fix it. So still doesn't like that. Maybe if I just said the .NET generic .NET, that would basically do the trick. So if I just say NET 9.0 and then semicolon, let's see here. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. We'll see. Come on, you can do it. So it's happy with .NET. I can see it seeing it. That's good, sort of. And then under mock, Android test mock, what is that? Nope, that's not what I want. This is very strange, very, very strange problem. I mean, in part, you know, I mean, the project itself, it's not going to include the references project itself, which is great. But also, the problem with the test itself not being able to play nice with the frameworks, that's new, because the projects that I started that runs on 8 was very happy with that, .NET 8, and then upgraded to 9, super happy, no problem there. But this one is different. I wonder also, like, just out of curiosity, you know, previous projects that I have would say, hey, by the way, this is it, this is a test project. Is test project. I wonder if that helps, right? If I say true, Does this change anything for me? Let's see. Because this is the only difference that I'm seeing here between a previous project and an existing project. Disable, disable, is packable, false. And then, and I didn't have to add any of these things, like any of these platforms here. That's also very strange. I wonder if that helps. Let's reload this thing. Well, it looks like it's working now. So I guess the question is why didn't create this as a test project in the first place? That blows my mind. Like I created a unit test project and it didn't add this little tiny thing that says is test project. That's a very, very interesting thing. Is this now a thing? Like if I go and create a new project and I say X unit, let's see here, X unit test project, and I just create a dummy project just for all intents and purposes. It's also possible that I deleted this by mistake while I was, I'll rewatch the stream and whatnot, but it's very possible that when I created this project, no, it's not adding it in here. That's crazy. So something basically is wrong with the template. The template of the xunit.net is whack. It's broken. And that's what took us that little trip, but it's okay. We fixed it. We figured it out. Let's move on, right? So now everything is happy, I guess. Let me just go back and not make our interfaces public because that's probably a bad idea. Internal. Oops, internal. I mean, it's not going to hurt you if you're building an API or something that the people don't have to pull in as an SDK, but it's a good practice in general. You should kind of get in the habit of it. But anyway, it's fixed. It's good. Let's go here. Let's go and pull in the dependencies. Do I need to rebuild this thing? I think I need to rebuild it. It'll error out, I know, but we need to rebuild it. Or maybe not, I don't know. Still not happy about something. So let me kind of comment this. Let me comment this area. Let's rebuild. Come on, come on, come on. Done building project, sure. Let's go. I know you created the DLL. You can do it. Yeah, it's back to the same problem. Christo's telling me here in the chat, you know, you're back to .NET to target frameworks. Maybe it should be framework again. That's right. Let's try that again. I mean, I really like that there's a feedback loop in here that basically tells me immediately whether some of these projects are not in the good format, but it looks like we are still fighting something. Yeah, see, it's the same thing. It's basically saying Project ARK apps mobile is not compatible with .NET 9 version 9. Project apps mobile supports Android, whatever. Do we go back now that we tried this is test project? Do we try and go back to this view and maybe see if that works? I mean, it's worth the shot. I know why people did the upgrade the way they did, but I think that reload faulted project. I mean, we're gonna have to monkey with it until it works, right? We're not gonna give up on it. Yeah, I see all these, and then in the packages area, it basically says, I see all these different packages that you have, but none of them are basically compatible. Let's give it another build and see what happens. Very strange. Worst case scenario, I could just kind of fall back to .NET 8. That's easy. And then we can basically just continue. That's always an option. And then we give feedback to the .NET folks, tell them your stuff is not working. In fact, actually, if we build it with the .NET 8 template, and we go back and say, hey, .NET 8 template and all that, we can basically go back. Well, I'm seeing different results now. It says empty resolve framework reference runtime pack path. Wow. Okay, but things are looking better. I'll say that. So foundations, service. Can I do this? May I do this? May I kind of bring the mock back? Okay, it's recognizing the mock, which is a huge progress. Control KU. We fixed it. Oh my God, that was a little fight. Sorry for taking so much time. So I guess you have I, well, what I don't like about this is that, well, okay, I targeted every framework, great, and now every framework underneath here has these libraries, great, but also like, why is test project true just disappeared from the template? That's wild. That's just crazy, right? That's really crazy, right? Anyway, we have a test. Moving forward. So private, let's do this. Private read only. I have to go through that suffering so the next person that will be building a .NET 9 mobile app don't have to go through that pain. That's the beautiful thing about streaming in the open source world. Okay, a good 10, 20 minutes that we had to fight. That's fine. That's all right. So ARK service, let's go back to business. ARK service like this, and then CTOR, this.ark API broker, mock, here's my mock. Just kind of remove the billies from our methods. This.logging broker, mock equals new mock logging broker. There you go. And then I'm gonna kind of call the ARK service and initialize it. ARK service, and then I have an ARK API broker. This.ark API broker mock.object, and then logging broker. We start with the most important one and then the other. So this is logging broker mock.object. So now I basically did a quick dependency injection thing for my project, right? Okay. What else do I need to do? Well, I'm doing a retrieve all. So for the happy path of this, I need to generate a bunch of random arcs, right? We did that before in the API project. So I'm just gonna go and steal that because I can. So I can go into the little filler and then basically just copy that and basically say, here's my filler logic. Did we install the object filler yet? We didn't install the object filler. Let's go and install the object filler and fluent assertions as well. I think this int range that's showing up in here, that one comes with the system library itself. I don't think we need to do that. So let's go install a bunch of things. Now it's the time to kind of pull in all these fun libraries. You know what's a quick way to install a whole bunch of libraries instead of using the interface? You could simply just go to a previous project where you use the exact same libraries, and you can basically just copy from the CS proj, right? So let me just show you what I'm doing here. Like if I go into the API project for ARK, this guy right here, and I double click on the unit test, I know for a fact that I need the deep cloner, fluent assertions. I need these guys, right? And I also need, let's say, I need the mock. How do I copy these without, let's see. If I do Alt Shift, of course I have to do this because why not? And then Tynet, no, that's not it. Control Shift, nope. Control Alt. Yeah, there you go. Control Alt, yeah, but perfect. So object filler. So I'm doing Control Alt basically right now just to pick up these guys. So dynamics, mock, deep cloner, and fluent assertions, and then I'm gonna do Shift End. So it's gonna copy these for you, right? And then I'm gonna go here and basically go into the other project that I was on in the unit test. I'm just gonna drop these dependencies. I already installed mock, so I don't have to install it again. But fluent assertions and all these other pieces, I think we have them all. Perfect. Okay. Now can I bring in the filler into my code? I should be able to. Let me kind of give this guy a little rebuild or something like that, so I don't need the Kotlin ranges from here. And let me kind of reload the dependencies of the project. There should be a new thing in here called load direct dependencies. There you go. I wonder if that should do the trick for me. I see some errors here in some of these libraries. I don't know. Let's just find out what it does. Hopefully it's not a big issue because we need these libraries, obviously. Still looking at the Kotlin range. It's still looking at, let's see here. maybe the installation process of these is slightly different, and you still have to use the interface to handle that for you. It's possible. I mean, we installed mock and it worked, so we may as well just install everything else. I wonder if it even can see these libraries. So fluent assert, yeah, I can. Fluent assertions, and then using object filler, dynamics filler, right? Let's see here the interfaces. Let's see the um, dynamics object filler exceptions with the X, and then mock, and then I think everything else is fine, right? So this guy, unless it's not happy with dynamics for a reason. Let's see why. The type or namespace dynamics is not found. Is not found. Why? Maybe we copied the wrong name or something. Okay, fine. I'll go install it manually. I don't like doing that, but I'll just do it. Here you go. Dynamics. Here, install. It should be pretty much the same thing, but apply. Here you go. So now it's installed. I see no errors. This guy should be happy in a second. There you go. Fantastic. Now let's just create, so private, let's do this, private static list of arcs, create random arcs. There you go. And then I need to generate all of that. So basically I'm gonna go and say, create arc filler. Doesn't like it because it's static. Create arc filler, and then create, and then count, get random count, random number, and then dot to list. I think if it's returning IEnumerable, it should be okay. No, I have to do that list. Aha. So this is a list of ARK. Okay, why are you mad? It basically says it's just the same Android thing. It's just basically keep fighting us back, like the whole Android thing. It just keeps going back and forth and saying, which one do you actually need? You're conflicting with a bunch of things. It shouldn't be that bad, but the list is basically, I'm just looking for the .NET list. So I think that might be the reason why this guy was barking. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Okay, let's create another file and let's do the actual test. So I'm going to go here and say, here's a copy, and then I'm going to go here and say .logic retrieve all. So that's my test. And then let's go up in here and say fact public async task. You're probably going to want to be careful, since we have all these different platforms loaded into the system. You probably really want to be careful when it comes to what you're pulling as types, because these types now are being shared across multiple platforms. It could be an Android, it could be whatever. So anyway, should retrieve all arcs async given when then. Here you go. And then let's create a list of arcs. Random arcs, create random arcs. There you go. And then list of arcs again, retrieved, not retrieved, well, retrieved, and we could say gotten arcs. I don't like it, but it's a get arcs. So these are gotten arcs. And then that's random arcs like this. And then I want to say expected arcs. I think I can say returned arcs. Returned is it's better than gotten. Gotten is just kind of weird. Expected arcs, and then this guy will basically be the returned arcs dot deep clone. Remember deep clone? We kind of dereferencing things. And I think this guy is small enough to be like in one line, so that's fine. That can stay this way. And then let's call our mock. So this is our API broker mock setup. Broker dot get all arcs async. It will return asynchronously what? The returned arcs. Okay, so we're returning all the arcs. Now let's go ahead and do the actual arc. So list of arc actual arcs equal await this dot service. Let's see, service, retrieve all arcs async. This guy, of course, is going to throw a not implemented exception, which is totally fine because that's how test-driven development works. And then actual arcs should be equivalent to expected arcs. That's basically our expected arcs. And then mocking this API broker mock, verify no other calls. Well, first we're going to say verify that we actually made that call. So broker.get get all arcs async should be called times once, just like we did before. And then I want to do the VNOs. So mock verify no other calls. This dot logging broker verify no other calls. Done. So that's a unit test, right? Unit tests, just so everyone understands, unit tests are very heavy if you're not used to them, right? It's very, very heavy and very hard. And so is everything else. Like if you don't train yourself, make yourself comfortable doing something over and over and over again. Of course, when someone says, does your project have unit tests? The common answer that I see from engineers is like, we want to, we don't have full coverage. Oh, there's a little bit, well, there's different schools of thought on that. It's basically just a short, like a long-winded way of basically saying, I don't write unit tests, right? Whether I don't believe in it or believe in it, or I think I should follow it or not. It's just I don't write unit tests in a very apologetic way. And sometimes some people are a little bit more kind of systematic about it and say, no, I think unit tests is a waste of time. I can't tell you how many times unit tests kind of saved my butt, when I'm writing software, especially when, you're developing a complex logic. It actually seriously makes you think actively about whether what you're doing makes sense or not. Anyway, let's run these tests and see what things look like. Control RT will do that trick for you. You can also do it through the command line, do .NET run or .NET test. That also works for you. Here we go. Looks like we have a couple of issues here. Let's see what the problem is. It says test classes must be public. Yeah, that's fair. So I made my test class internal. It should be public, and so is this guy. And then I see this system thing that doesn't want to go away. I don't know why. Up there, control period, remove unnecessarily usings, and it wouldn't let it go. It's very strange. Okay, let's run a test again. Let's go, let's go. Still not happy about something. It says resolve framework runtime pack while trying to read runtime component manifest. Resolve framework whatever. So it didn't let me run the tests, which is rude. And then I also saw something crazy in here. Watch this. For every framework that's out there, it created its own unit tests. Watch this. That's insane. Because you're targeting different frameworks, it kind of generated one for each. Can I just run it from here? Maybe that'll work. Come on. Nope, doesn't like it. So we're still having an issue. Sometimes just because honestly, like this manifest, whatever error that's going on underneath that HUD is kind of cryptic to me. I don't think it's actually the real issue, but what we can do is that I can unload and reload the project. That usually is a trick that works. Let's see if that works. Reload the project with dependencies. Same thing here. Let's do that. Believe it or not, sometimes just closing Visual Studio and opening it back up works. So let's go here, reload the project with dependencies. Here you go. Now let's just try to rebuild everything and see if the world works this way. Yeah, it's doing some discovery. I'm going to try to run these tests. Doesn't like it. Empty resolve framework reference. Let's see if AI can help us with this one. Let's go back here, GitHub Copilot. Go ahead. Let's see. Maybe it'll give us some insight here. reference is empty, which typically happens when runtime pack for the specified runtime identifier is not installed or cannot be resolved. Ensure the correct, oh, it wants the .NET workload install MAUI even on my local machine. Ensure you have the workloads for the specific whatever. Verify runtime. Okay, let's try that. So .NET workload install MAUI. Let's see if that kind of solves the problem for us. Oh, it's targeting the wrong framework. Hold on. So mobile. Yeah, there you go. It popped up like an admin window because it's doing something crazy. We'll see success, awesome stuff. Well, it'll be awesome if it builds. Let's see, .NET build. Let's see if that works. We'll see. We'll see. There we go. It has some issues with some duplicate file names. I don't know if that's the underlying reason for most of these issues that we've been seeing, but let's just see. Hopefully that's not it. Three errors, and the errors are one or more duplicate files are detected. One or more duplicate files are detected as the least of our concern. Maybe if I clean the project, that will do the trick for me. So let me just do a quick clean, completely just wipe out all the existing files. And let's run this guy again and see if that will do the trick. So clear, and then .NET build. The good news is I'm not getting this weird Java exe error again, which is a good sign. That's a great sign, actually. There we go. Still doesn't like it for some reason. Still has this one or more duplicate file issues. Okay, fine. I'll be that guy, and I will say .NET test and see if it can detect our test projects and actually run them, because that's really all I'm trying to do. No, still not happy with it. Okay, one more attempt, and then we're gonna have to dig into this issue more. I'm gonna try to literally just restart the entire project and see if that would do the trick for us. Here we go. Present. Go to Window, Mobile App. Here's our application, and let's kind of rebuild this and see if that works. Rebuild all started. It says done building the mobile app, which is great. Rebuild all started, and then it's not happy with, it says, again, it's the empty framework reference runtime pack. It's not very happy with this reference for the identity. And that lives where? That is living somewhere in that particular project, somewhere here, and it's basically saying that the resolution of the identity. Okay, so going back to AI, when we asked it that question, it basically said, it gave us a bunch of options. It basically said, ensure the correct workload is installed. Okay, we did that. Ensure that you have workloads for the specific platforms that you're testing, which are all of these platforms. So let me copy that and try this out and see if that could solve our problem. I mean, this java.exe thing is definitely gonna be a problem. I expected it to do that. It says MAUI Windows is already installed. Okay, what else is it trying to install? There's Android, iOS, successfully installed workloads for MAUI Android, MAUI iOS, and the Catalyst. Perfect. So now if I do .NET build again, does it still have this problem? I don't see the duplicate file thing yet. Oh, I see it. I see it now. And then it's still continuing. All image output must be unique. And then it basically ended up with 4 errors. It didn't like that. Okay, what else? It says verify the runtime identifier RID. You are targeting multiple, you can specify them in semicolon separated. And I think all of this is mainly coming from this whole idea of like having to target multiple projects this way. Let's try this. .NET workload install Android. Maybe that'll kind of help us. All right, I am back. I got a little black screen of this, the blue screen of death when the stream happened. Let's come back to it. Let's do this again. So even the previous instance of me on StreamYard is still there. Let's see if I can do that again. So let's restart everything and let's see. Hopefully a whole restart of the machine would do the trick for us. We'll see. An unintended restart, of course. Let's do this again. Share screen. Back into the mobile view. I'll do a rebuild. Still not very happy with something. All right. I'm getting a different error in here, but definitely let me kind of just respecting everyone's time. It doesn't look like the .NET 9. It looks like there were some breaking changes in the .NET 9 that may have caused this to kind of operate in this particular way. I'm gonna kind of time myself and just take this as a kind of life, like listen when you're solving problems like these. Time yourself when you're kind of solving a problem like this and see if you can solve it within a particular period of time. If not, you can always step out and come back to it. We're gonna do that. I'm gonna time myself to like 10 more minutes to try to solve that problem. And if it still persists, we're just gonna go ahead and wrap up the stream, and then we'll start again next week and try to make it work. Totally fine, happens all the time. Let's see if we can figure that guy out. The one thing that I still kind of in conflict with is having to add all these different platforms. I think that's the source of most of the evil that we had. So let's just go back to the main screen here. I didn't want it to treat it as a different platform each, and it kind of forced me into doing that. But then it started complaining about the packages. It didn't like the projects that I'm in. And I wonder if this project itself, if it needs to have just .NET itself. Just the one thing that just came to mind is that, does the mobile project itself need to target .NET as a platform on its own? Right? I wanted to kind of verify that. Yeah, that's where it is. That's where that's where all these problems came from. So if I do this and say this project is just a normal .NET project and go back here, I bet you this guy will be happy. Look at the unit test project now is so much happier. Can I just run my tests like a normal person? Let's see. So we found two crazy things now. Like it's it's targeting the platforms as is, and it's not adding the .NET, so it's not treating it in abstraction. That's one part. And then the second part here is that it didn't have the .NET as a target framework. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Let's see if that works. Program does not have static main. So now this guy, let's see. So the main project here now is not happy because it doesn't have some static main app, right? And I wonder if the previous version of .NET 8 had just a normal program CS. I think it was still running on MAUI, normal MAUI, but was it actually a main project? I don't want to lie to it until there's a main when there is not a main. This is just one error that's showing in the mobile app itself right now. Program does not have static main method suitable for an entry point. Very interesting. Okay, let's lie to it. Public static void main, right? And a bunch of args. I'm just gonna go and say create MAUI app. Let's see if that does the trick. That's very interesting journey that we have here. Where basically, I feel like I have to do way too much work in .NET 9 just to get a mobile app up and running. I promise you, it shouldn't be that hard to just work. Program has more than one entry point defined. So it does recognize, let's see here. It does recognize create MAUI app as an entry point. That's very interesting stuff. Very, very, okay, what if I took, interesting. What if I took all that? Now we're in the hacking mode, but we're gonna try to make it work. It's fine. Let's go and do this. And then this guy says, basically, I want to return the type. So that's why it didn't like this method first. But if it recognizes both of these methods as entry points, I think part of it is basically saying under .NET 9, I don't recognize this as an entry point because it's not a normal main method. Okay, let me unload this and let's rebuild that guy just on its own. Let's see how that works. So it's giving me a program does not contain static main method suitable for this. Just comparing it to previous projects, creating a MAUI app. Okay, we have this, and then a whole bunch of things. Was there any, like in the original release or the original page, was there any other CS things that we cared about? There was a thing called app XAML CS, which is the one I see it right here. It has its own create window app, whatever. That's just the build for it. And there was routes. You have the MAUI program, main pages CS. Main pages CS basically mostly it's just another glue for all of this. But then the MAUI program itself just had that same public static MAUI app entry point. Okay, what does the CS proj for this guy actually say? So .NET 9, Android, and iOS. I wonder if some of that ties in non-supported platforms is maybe causing some of that trouble. I don't know. We'll find out. Sure as heck, we'll find out. I'll tell you that. Here we go. I wonder if it's going to be happier now. Nope, it says CS 5001 program does not contain a static main method suitable for an entry point. Interesting. Very, very interesting situation. What else is different about this .NET 8 version that's making it super stubborn like that? Like you already have SDK Razor at the top. We have that. We already have the MS Build platforms, and it's targeting a bunch of platform, Windows, .NET Windows, Target Framework, all of this is the same. And then you have a bunch of commented stuff. Output type exe, sure. I see in the output type exe, we basically said ignore the .NET 9 in previous projects. Let's see if that kind of helps. I don't think it does, but let's try it. It looks like it disappeared. The error disappeared. Yeah, now we're back to just normal. I guess that just fixes it. Like ignore .NET 9 when you try to build or produce an exe. Interesting. Okay, can I run my test now, please? It's doing something. Let's see. So what's the error that came out other than this Java exited with whatever? Nothing. So if I go and just say .NET test, I think this is much better than where we were, but let's just test this. I'm gonna do .NET test and run this guy and see what it does. Look at this, it actually ran the tests. It actually did run the test. That's amazing. I think we fixed the problem. Wow, okay, 10 minutes. Did I do it 10 minutes on the clock? Great. Now I just want to see it run here and then I'll be happier. So what did I actually do? I basically went up here and said only target iOS and Android, and then this .NET. And in the unit test, oh, the unit test project itself is not even loaded. Hold on a second. So hold on a second. Reload the project. So this guy should be happier. And then I should be able to test this thing. Here you go. Let's do this. We got it. We got this. So this is the .NET 9 version. All these other versions should actually disappear because I basically said don't target these particular frameworks or platforms. Just run the bare bones code, like the logic that I care about, and just run that. I'll ignore this Java exe for a second. I'll figure out at some point, but I don't think it's not what's blocking this guy. Because if I go into one of these tests, this guy, for instance, and say run, it should just run. Okay, fine. It's really want us, like we're really close because now like if I do .NET tests, it basically just actually runs the test, like .NET tests. It'll actually run the test for me and actually tell me you have one failing test and one passing test, which is really what I want. Here it is at the very bottom right here. But now I can probably, what I can do is to basically just figure out what's up with this Java exe not installed nonsense. If I can fix this one, I think our system will be much happier. Let's see. Let's see what AI says about that. There you go. It says the error Java exit typically indicates that there was an issue with the execution of Java-based tools such as D8 or R8, which are used in the Android build process for .NET MAUI projects. This error occurs for several reasons, such as missing dependencies, whatever. Verify Java installation. Do I actually have Java installed on my machine? Like I haven't touched Java in ages. Let's find out together whether Java is actually on my system. Java version. Ah, that's why. Let's go and install Java then. That's how much of a .NET person I am. I don't even have Java installed on my system. And that's why. So let's do this. I'll just go and find an executable for Java, or basically the Microsoft build for the Open JDK or Java JDK. I'll just install that guy and see. Download the Microsoft. It doesn't say specifically which let me show you what I'm looking at. It doesn't specifically say which version I really need to install, which I think is fine. I hope that Java is kind of backwards compatible. if it's looking for a particular version, but let's just try. It says Microsoft SDK JDK 2107. Let's install that guy and see what happens. It looks good to me. Let's install it. So I don't have Java installed. Wow, that's bad. You probably need Java if you're going to do Android stuff, because that's what MAUI is doing under the hood. Let's install Java. I'm actually super surprised. What happens to the 3 billion devices? I thought at this point in time would ship with Windows basically at this point, but who knows? The only thing I'm hoping for is just it doesn't ask me to kind of restart my machine. That would be nice. Okay, so it's installed. Does it see Java now? Yeah, we have Java now. So here you go. So what I basically did is just installed the MSI for Java, and now it says Java version, whatever. Does this help with our problem for Visual Studio? Let's find out. Let's go back to this sucker here. This guy beat us up today, good, right? But that's the thing about programming. Like if you're not patient, if you can't be patient, and if you can't kind of fight through things, like it's not always, oh, I know everything and it's just gonna go smoothly. You're gonna have to use your brain. And sometimes it'll beat you up, and that's fine. You know, that's the thing about programming. It'll humble you down no matter how much you think you know. But here we are. I think we're almost close. We're on the other side of this thing. Ah, it still doesn't see it. I wonder if I have to. I wonder if I have to restart Visual Studio so it recognizes that Java is in our system. One last thing to kind of try out before we decide that it just can't see Java. Here we are. Let's rebuild this guy. Let's try it again. Come on, baby, you can do it. Source value 8 is absolute and will be removed. It's wild what MAUI and Xamarin is doing under the hood. Crazy. Okay, still not happy. It's basically saying Android D8 target is not happy. Let's keep fighting it. I mean, we're making progress, so I don't have to quit right now because I'm really happy that it's actually making progress in that direction. It's basically saying, okay, workload. Oh, okay, so back to this. I like that it kind of remembers the stuff that we did before. That's nice, but it sounds like I need to kind of, okay, I have the Java version. It already proposed this, so we figured that one out. If the version is incorrect or missing, set X, okay, can remember, but it says JDK 11. Increase the Java heap size, check Android SDK and build tools. Validate ProGuard R8 configuration, .NET clean, .NET build, .NET restore. I mean, when I did .NET test, it did run it, so that's a good sign. MAUI Android. I'll just try this. It looks like reinstalling this workload might help. So .NET, let's try that. I like that part. Let's try that part. So we're gonna uninstall the Android and reinstall it and see what happens. Okay, and now the install part. And then it did a couple of nice tricks there where it basically said .NET clean, .NET build. Okay, perfect. Okay, so .NET clean is gonna clean up all the DLLs and all that junk that it generated under the hood to make things work. Wow, look at all these files. It's crazy. If someone doesn't know what I'm doing and looking at the screen right now, they'll be like, "Oh my God, he's hacking. He's accessing something," and I'm just doing a .NET clean. That's what's hilarious about this industry. No one really understands what you're doing unless they are in the same industry as you. Here we go. Almost there. It's gonna take him forever. I hope it's not looping. Is it in a loop? It's not in a loop. Okay, that's a good thing. Okay, here. We want to basically go and basically do .NET build. Some of the issues that you might have seen here are also, they're very possible. yeah, I did blow my machine up. Like when I dropped off, Gregory is saying, well, you actually did blow your machine up. I did. I did. While I was doing the Android install thing, I actually got a blue screen of death. I really genuinely did that. So that's bad. Um, and then the version, I mean, it sees the version, it's installed. What else did this guy propose? It said .NET Restore. Oh yeah, that's right. But the build itself didn't work. Enable diagnostic logging. Check for long file paths. No, that's not. That summary, the Java error often related to Java configuration, memory allocation, or Android SDK issues by following these steps above. And it did talk a little bit about the Android SDK earlier. It did say increase the heap size, check the build, check Java installation, check the Android SDK and build tools. We already did that, right? .NET MAUI. Actually, the command that we had was, yeah, MAUI Android. We did all that, and still kind of stubborn. It doesn't like that. I have a Java installation and it still can't see it. Maybe installing the machine would work. I don't know. I'll do that as one more shot because I really want this to work and I want people to be able to run this on their machines. I'm pretty sure also like this Java exe is probably my machine specific, right? How much I love Java. I should have made so much fun of Java and keep saying, oh, C# is Java done right, and now Java is coming back to beat me up. But this part in here, it's basically referencing this. Okay, so let's see if AI actually can tell me where to download Java from, because let's just do this. It's pointing, the error is pointing to this configuration for D8. Let's do that. Let's see what AI says there. So it's basically saying they're pointing to D8 configuration suggests that the Java-based D8 tool is failing during the build process. This is often caused by missing or invalid configurations, missing files, or insufficient resources. The toolpath property must point to the correct location. To verify, open the terminal and run Java version. Yeah, that works. I know that works for sure. Check the jar path. The jar path property is whatever. Increase Java heap size, the same thing that it was saying to me earlier, right? Michelle says, have you added the Java to environment variables? Yeah, I know that it's added in the environment variable because when I say Java version, it sees it. See? So it actually definitely knows that it's in there, right? Now I wonder, is it because I have that open JDK thing? Does this matter? Does it make any difference? I don't know. It doesn't look like it does, or it doesn't seem like it does. Okay, the last thing to do since I installed Java is to give this one. Should I restart, Greg? Do you think it's worth it if I restarted my machine? I mean, the stream will keep going. Is it worth it? Source value 8 is obsolete. I see this source value suppress warnings, and then it basically gives me that really, really nasty error about the Android. You know what we should do when we see problems? We should just get rid of them, right? What if I commented this area like that? What would happen? What could possibly go wrong? See, it's not even just a configuration that you can comment. It's coming from somewhere. Like this guy's not just doing that, right? So you can't just update it. It doesn't work like that. Okay. All right. The last thing, one last resort, I want to try. I will restart my machine. Stay here on the stream. I'll be right back. This time I'm going to do it on purpose, and then let's see if that fixes that problem. I will be right back. And I'm back. Okay, let's see if that would work. Let's give it a shot. The one thing that doesn't make any sense is that the Visual Studio terminal recognizes it, but that could be a completely different thread, so we don't know. We actually don't know if that can help. Let's see here. And then if it really, really doesn't work, that's how stubborn I am, or that's what I learned in this industry. I can try it on this other machine. That's also a Windows machine. We'll try it there and see what happens. Can't just let technology beat us up, right? I mean, it will win sometime, but you're gonna have to come back, right? Let's see. It's getting closer. It doesn't like it. It says Java XE exited with code 1. Doesn't like it. But for all intents and purposes, if I can even, like, to be honest, like if I can even run the .NET test and it can give me back feedback that my build is running, I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna close up this service today, right? Because that's what the stream is about. So even if this guy is complaining like this, I'll just go up in here. I'll be like, okay, let's go old school. You don't want to let me run my test. I'm gonna do .NET test. I'm actually gonna have it run the test in the command line, because the command line still is able to respond to the stuff that I'm doing in my test. Watch this. So if I'm gonna zoom in here, it says you have one failed test and one passing test. So I'm going to keep going for many reasons. Number one, the application itself runs. Like if I click Windows Run, it'll run the application. So we got that out of the way. And even the Android version of it runs. Like if I run on an Android simulation, it also runs. The only problem seems to be with some configuration on my local machine. See, that's the application. It's running. It's beautiful. It doesn't have any problem. So if it's running and I can run the tests, why don't I just continue and actually run my tests? So I'm just gonna continue. That's how stubborn I am. So I'm gonna go and say, this is a fail, commit, and I'm gonna go and actually make it pass. So let's go over to, who needs interfaces, right? Let's do it old school. So I'm gonna go and say await this dot API broker, get all async, and now that test should pass. A little annoying that we have to do it like through the command line, but that's how every programmer started anyway. You know, if anything that, you know, anyone would learn out of this is that they would know, like, sometimes, you know, Visual Studio itself will go crazy and the UI is not going to help you, but you still can get actual good values out of it. Watch this. So this is passing, like 2 pass. It used to say 1 pass. Now it's 2 pass. So I'm going to do it this way. That's fine. So let's go up in here and let's mark this as pass. You know what would be interesting for everyone is that if I push this up in the pipeline, and because it's a completely different agent, it's not going to see that problem. You know what? I think it's totally worth it to try something like that, right? I'll create the foundation PR, even though it's still in draft, and I'll let the build kick off and see if that agent that I'm running the MAUI app in is happy. Because if that agent is also happy, then we're good. So foundations, retrieve all arcs, right? I don't know if Greg, you created an issue for this. Probably you did. Retrieve, or maybe foundations. Yes, he did create it. Yep, thank you. So I'm gonna create this and I'm gonna create it as a draft. Does it actually give me the option to create as draft in here? It doesn't look like it. And the create button itself is also kind of disabled. It's not letting me kind of do anything with it. Okay, fine. Is it because I pushed straight to master? That's why I forgot to create a branch. Shucks. Okay, that's fine. Let's go and create a branch for it. Users. That's why it didn't let me. Users, Hassan, Habib, foundations, arcs, retrieve all. Okay, I have a branch now, but even if, you know, even with this master build that I just built, like the master push that I just made, it's probably a good advice so people just know not to give themselves access to the master, although sometimes you have to do that. Like sometimes there has to be at least one person on the team that actually have access to the master main branch. But let me just kind of, since I pushed this guy, just out of curiosity, I'm really curious. This push that I just made should trigger at least one. Oh, I need to merge the build project as well. That's right. Hold on a second. Looks like Krista already approved that build. Great. So the workload thing worked. Now, I wonder, since this guy already has the services in it, and it has the passing service kind of implementation, I wonder if that build will actually pass. Because if that build passes, then anyone who can pull in that project and run it on their local machine, they'll be able to run it. That whole Java exe thing is just my problem. It's a thing on my machine that's really annoying, but you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about it yourself. So I'll keep it running over there while I'm kind of finishing the rest of this service. Let's go back here. And now that we are in a new branch, I can kind of write the rest of these tests. And let's start with the simple ones. So, okay, I need models, and under models there is exceptions, right? And what kind of exceptions do we need to handle when you're calling a particular endpoint, right? The first, probably you got to think about the kind of exceptions that you will be facing when you're working with that endpoint, right? One of the biggest issues is that what if your configuration itself is broken? Your configuration is broken, and you're not able to, I don't know, you're not able to kind of even send the request out to wherever you want to send it, right? So we want to handle that issue, right? So first thing is URL not found exception. So let's go ahead in here and say we have a configuration problem. So I'm going to create an exception here and say failed ARK configuration exception. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. And then this guy inherits from exception with the X. So we have that installed. Perfect. I don't remember actually installing that. I think it came with something else. Maybe it came with RESTful Sense or something like that. And then here's a CTOR for me. And then out of that CTOR, I basically want to go and say, well, I am taking in an HTTP response exception that's coming from the outside world, right? I need a message, and I need, let's go here. There you go, like that. So here's string message, and you also have the actual exception, right? So whatever that exception can be, so that's your inner exception like that, right? And that guy, I think we can keep them at the same level if we want to. Here we go. Like that. And then that guy basically is base message exception done. So that's failed ARK configuration exception. That means that before the request even fires to the outside world, right, you could potentially have a serious problem in your configuration itself, right? And how do you handle that? Your exceptions need to know that there's an actual issue and be able to handle that in particular. Okay, so we need also the other exception, which is the dependency. So this is ARK dependency exception, like that. So ARK dependency exception. And this guy inherits from exception with the X. And then here's your CTOR again. But this time you're taking a message, but you're also taking an inner exception in the type of exception like that. So that's base, inner exception, done and done. Very pretty, no problem. Okay, so I have these two. Now I need to write a unit test that basically says when the URL is not found, when you have a URL and it's not found, go ahead and basically log a configuration issue exception. So let's paste for a new test in here. And here is exceptions down there at my test. Here you go. And then I'm going to go ahead and kind of write a test for it. There's a bunch of other potential critical exceptions that could happen, but I think this one will go through just fine. Let's go up in here. Public async task should throw, right, critical dependency exception if a critical error occurs, and log it async. So that's the issue, That's what we expect to happen, right? So how is that going to happen? Given, when, then. There you go. And then I'm going to create an exception, which is HTTP response URL. That's where this library, the RESTful Sends library, comes into play. URL not found exception. New HTTP response URL not found exception. And what does this guy want from us? It wants an HTTP message and just a random message, basically. So okay, so some string HTTP message. HTTP message like that. Let's see, this guy wants what? HTTP response message. That's right, HTTP response message. Random HTTP response message. Sure. Here's a var for you. And then also some message, right? So whatever the message may be for the actual HTTP response URL not found, I also don't care particularly about that, right? So let's just go here and say some response message, and then I'm going to create just a random string, right? How do you create a random string here? So this is private string get random string, new mnemonic string, and then word count, get value. And then I want a random word count as well. So get random count, random number. Let's go back here, get random string like this. And let's create this. So Control Shift Space will kind of show you the parameters that you want to put in. So I have my random HTTP response message, and I also have the message itself, which is some response message. There you go. Okay, so that's the exception that will be thrown, but we want to catch that exception and we want to localize and categorize. We want to turn it into a failed ARK configuration exception, and we want to turn it into an ARK dependency exception. So let's see if that actually works. So failed ARK configuration exception, new failed ARK configuration exception. This guy will have a message that will say failed ARK configuration error occurred, contact support. So that's the error that we're going to log. And then the inner exception is basically that HTTP response not found exception. Okay, let's go further and say expected ARK dependency exception. Okay, new ARK dependency exception, which will take also a message. ARK dependency error occurred, contact support. That's one. And then the second one is the inner exception, which is the failed ARK exception. So far, so good. So I'm expecting this guy and this guy as an inner outer as a categorization, but also I expect that only happens when the URL not found exception happens. Okay. Now, let's pretend that this actually happened. So let's go into the API broker and say setup. So here's my broker. And then broker.get all arcs will throws async. Throws what? It throws the original issue, which is the HTTP response URL not found exception, that guy. So we're handling, like, think about like the test that I'm writing here, right? You're getting a URL not found exception. That's a huge issue. That's a critical error, because that basically means your application is either talking to a server that no longer exists, or your configuration is bad, or something else is going on, right? Now, how do we verify that we're logging the right issue with the right criticality? Just like we did with the previous service, right? So you have the ARK dependency exception. So actual ARK dependency exception, and then assert. Well, not yet. I have a value task actually of a list of ARK. That's that guy. And then this is retrieve all ARKs task. And that's this guy. That's the service. This.service retrieve all ARKs async. Right? I'm pretty sure I missed or added an extra thing in here. Control KD will kind of line things up for you. And then the ARK dependency exception. So this is actual ARK dependency exception. And this guy will await, assert, throws, async, ARK dependency exception. There you go. And then I'm going to throw that guy in there. So retrieve all ARK task.task, right? And then we're going to verify. So actual should be equivalent to, I think it's one thing, should be equivalent to expected. I don't remember, Greg. I think it was should be equivalent to in one shot. Maybe I'm wrong. Hold on. Yeah, I think this is fine. It should just come from the exception library. That's all that it needs to do. And then what else? I want to basically go and say, did I actually make that call? So this mock API broker verify broker.get all arcs async times once, easy peasy. You don't need to do the open closing parens when you're doing that. It works both ways. And then lastly, we want to log the exception. So verify broker.log critical async. That call needs to happen. And then we're going to go and say it is, right? Same exception as, right? And that's where it gets interesting, because that's where we basically want to compare the expected exception, which is the expected ARK exception in here, that this ARK exception has actually been logged properly. Okay, this ARK exception has been logged properly. What is this same exception as stuff? Remember, we wrote that before. Let's write it one more time for funsies, right? It's private expression, right? Expression of a func that has a Boolean and an exception with the X, same exception as, right? And then you have exception, expected exception. And then you go up in here and say actual exception should, what was it? Actual exception should be, what is it? I forgot the one. It's hold on a second. It's we either need the logic compare, or yeah, same exception as from previous projects, just looking at one that I wrote before, and because it will exist in whatever you kind of look at from a project standpoint. So same exception as, right? So this guy, yeah, expression of a func, and then same exception as. That's the word. Here you go. Same exception as. And I know it doesn't see it yet, but we can pull the right library for it. I think the right library for it would be the extensions for it. Let's just make sure that we have that in there. So same exception as, and this guy is coming from the exception library, right? It's an extension that we add, right? So if we have that reference in here, we don't, using exceptions. There you go. Let's see if it kind of, same exception as, expected exception. Okay, what did I put this actual exception as? Pool does not contain. Did I flip them? I flipped them. I made the exception come before the Boolean. That's why. Control KD. There you go. And now let's go back here. Same exception as. Great, great. What are we missing? We're missing one thing. It is the same exception as that. The perfect. And then this dot broker mock. So the API has been called. Verify no other calls have been made to that broker. And then verify no other calls. The logging is also in line. Okay. Now let's run our tests. Remember, Hassan's machine is broken, so we're gonna have to do it old school with the command line. Let's do it this way. This should fail, and then we're gonna make it pass and all that fun stuff. By the way, for those who are interested, if you look at the build that we kicked off, this just proves that my machine is just whack, basically. If you look at the build that we pushed for the main it basically literally passed with flying colors, right? Like if you look at the test, it passed the one test, the two tests that we had in place. So definitely that whole Java exe thing. Hassan, go ahead and clean your machine. You have a lot of junk on your machine. You wasted people's times with that stuff. Okay, so I have one failing test, right? And the one failing test is should throw critical dependency exception. Just out of curiosity, did I actually say log critical? Yes, I did. Okay, perfect. Let's go and do that. Fail. I'm pushing that through. Save all and commit. And now let's make it pass. We need to make that guy pass, right? So we have the ARK service. We need a try catch in here. So I'm going to copy this. Let's make sure this guy is partialized. So this is partial. And then I'm going to copy this guy and create an exception handling piece. So this is the exceptions like that. And inside that exception, I'm going to basically build my my delegate, right? So private delegate, something that returns a value task of a list of arcs. And then I'm going to say returning arcs function right there. And then private async value task list of arcs try catch. That's my try catch pattern. And then returning arcs function, same thing. And then try catch like that. And then I'm going to go and say returning, this is awaiting this function, and that should be actually returned. And then remember the exception that we're trying to catch. It's called HTTP response URL not found exception. Where did this come from? It came from RESTful Sense, that nice library that we have built to kind of handle that situation. Okay, so instead of like what people do today is that they basically go and say catch like this, and then HTTP response exception like this, right? And say exception, and then go again and say when, right? That exception dot code or something crazy like that equals whatever, right? I don't think that's the right way. I don't even think it's called HTTP response. It has a name for it, HTTP exception or something like that. There's a name for it, right? And that's what people do today. I don't want you to do that. I want you to just target an actually hard-coded exception that you can program against. That's the goal of it. Okay, what do I need to do here? So private static, well, I'm going to call the logging broker, so it's not static, right? And I'm returning an exception, ARK dependency exception, create and log ARK critical dependency exception. That takes exception as an X here. So that's my exception. And it'll basically create it for me. So var ARK dependency exception equals new ARK dependency exception, and then that guy will take a message. So this is ARK dependency error occurred, contact support. And then the inner exception here is whatever that you're passing in. That's that inner exception for that guy. And then we want to basically await and log. So this dot logging broker log critical, and we're logging that ARK dependency error. Okay, and then lastly, just return it. Just return the ARK dependency exception, just like that. Okay, so now can I actually do this? I can say failed ARK configuration exception, and then new failed ARK configuration exception, which will take a message, failed ARK configuration error occurred, contact support. That's for our logging. Like your external customer will never see this. Like your external customer will never see that. It shouldn't. If you're doing it right, they shouldn't see that particular error. And then here I'm going to say throw create and log failed ARK exception. That should make that test that I wrote pass. But let's just find out if that's true. I think also this guy needs to be value task of something, because this is async, right? Create and log async like that, because we're actually awaiting something, right? There you go. So which means that this guy needs to be awaited. And now we just need to try that try catch. We need to use it. right? We need to use that try catch. So I'm going to go back to my service here and do that little number. I'm going to go and say try catch, right? And async, and then let it kind of handle that scenario for me. And I'll take the async away from this here, and that should kind of work, right? Now let's see. We're going to run our tests and see if that works. .NET test. There you go. The test passed, right? Super old school, but it passed, right? So let me go back to that test. And then I'm going to take that test and basically say, this is here pass. Okay. What other exceptions should we care about, right? So we talked about the, the configuration issue, right? So if the configuration is broken, we have a serious problem. Do we have a problem with authorization? No, our API endpoint doesn't have authorization on it yet. So that shouldn't be a problem I need to worry about. Maybe in the future, maybe I need to handle that in the future for sure, but the authorization is also still not a problem that I need to worry about. What other exceptions? Maybe just the generic bad request exception, right? So basically, I can just say, I can't access this. There's a bad request. But bad request only happens when you're sending a request. So if you're not sending a request, it doesn't make any sense that you're gonna handle a request, right? So that doesn't make any sense. What other exceptions? You have to think about all the possible exceptions that could come out of an API, and you want to make sure that you're handling it properly. Well, we could handle the generic HTTP response exception, which is kind of the catch-all for the APIs. Let's go and handle that guy. It's a failed ARK dependency exception. Like, it's a very generic. There's 1,000 error codes that could be thrown in there, and we're just catching that particular portion of it. Okay, let's do that. Let's just say failed ARK dependency exception. Let's go up in here and do that. And that's not critical because you actually don't know if it is critical or not, right? It's not necessarily critical. We don't know that yet. So exception, CTOR takes in a generic exception, and it takes in a message, right? So string message, and then exception, inner exception. Same thing we did before, base message, inner exception. Great. Control KE, clean up things. You have the copyrights, great. And I already have the ARK dependency exception, which this one is. The only difference is just it's not a critical. So the only difference between this test and the one that I'm about to write is that it's just not critical. That's all. So let's go do that. Should throw dependency exception if dependency error occurs and log it async. The exact same thing. The only difference here is that failed ARK dependency error occurred. And then instead of this HTTP, I'll just say HTTP response exception, just the generic high level one, which it looks like it takes a HTTP response message, random HTTP response message. Everything is just the same. ARK dependency error occurred. That's the same. All of that is the same. People that are on the stream, let me know if you still can hear me. If you can't hear me, let me know. Okay, so it's just a log normal error in here, and then everything else should just work the same. Should throw dependency exception if dependency error occurs and log it async. And then you have failed ARK dependency error occurred, contact support. Great. And this should be failed ARK dependency like that. And show is this guy. Dependency exception. There you go. And then the rest of it should be fine. Okay, Greg confirms. You can hear me? Okay, perfect. Okay, let's run this test. This should fail. So we should have 3 passing and 1 failing. There you go. 1 failed, 1 pass. Perfect. Okay. Let's commit that here as a failing test. And then let's go and actually make it pass, right? The passing of this will also be simple. Instead of critical, I just want one that just says non-critical. So I'm taking this guy out. And then the rest of this is fine. So this is log error async. And then I need another block in here. Control D will do that fun piece for you. And then I'm going to pick up this guy and paste it in here. If you select one letter and do Control U, it will lowercase it for you, which is great. And then the dependency here is different. So it's failed ARK dependency exception. Let's take that guy, paste, lowercase f. Here you go. And this is create and log dependency exception. Perfect. And this is failed ARK dependency error occurred contact support. There you go. Okay, everything else should just work. Let's go and run this guy again. And it should just work like a charm. Let's see. There you go. Pass. Old school, going with the command line, just making it work, right? You can't let anything stop you. You have to fight through this thing. So, okay, so this is that. What's the last exception that I need to handle? The last exception that I need to handle is the generic exception. So you handled the API exception piece. I want to do the generic exception, which is just exception as a service. So how do we do that? Let's figure it out together. So for starters, let's create a failed service exception. Failed ARK service exception. Here's my guy. And then that guy takes from exception. Here's your CTOR. String, same thing, string message, exception, inner exception like that. Great. And then here's your base. Great. Like this, Control KE. Great. And then I want a service exception. So ARK service exception, ARK service exception. It's just a very generic exception like that. And that guy takes exception as a parameter. Here's your CTOR, string message, exception with the X inner exception like that. Oops. Inner exception. Base. There you go. Great. This is all great. And then we just need to write a test case. We just need to write a test case for it. So let's go back into the exception area here. I think it might work if I just did the same thing here as well. Let's find out. Like this method will still work for me if I just repurposed it. So it should throw service exception if service error occurs. Great. And then I can create the most generic exception ever. So this is service exception, new exception like that. Right? So let me pull the dependency for this guy and then put that guy here. And then that would be the exception that will be thrown here. Great. And then this is failed ARK service exception. And then let's change that everywhere. Let's change the word dependency everywhere. Let's make it, well, not everywhere, just in that test basically, right? So I have this and this. So I will say failed ARK service exception, right? And then let's just change the actual models. So this is the service exception right here. And this is ARK service exception like that. All good and dandy. Here you go. And then we want to change these guys as well, because now the categorical exception is different. This is service exception, ARK service exception. This guy still says dependency. So service, that's great. Service exception, it's not critical. That's great. Failed ARK service exception. This is all good. It looks good to me, unless you guys see something that's not quite right. I think it looks good. Okay, let's run the test. There you go. It basically says you have one failed, and this failed test is the service exception. Let's go and do a commit for this guy. Fail, commit all. And then let's go handle it, right? And we're gonna handle it the exact same way. I'm gonna copy this guy. I'm gonna pick up everywhere where it says dependency. I'm gonna make it say service. That's one shot. And then the lowercase one we have to handle individually, and then we're good. Okay, let's catch the second guy. So this is exception. That's your generic exception. Here you go. And then this is ARK service exception. And this will be service exception. And that guy also, we're going to call it service. See, it's, you know, unit test is not really that scary if you just kind of get in the mood of it. Everything will just flow with you. You actually enjoy being that kind of in control when it comes to writing tests and understanding. You're mirroring these thoughts this way, right? What else is left here? Failed ARK service exception. Create and log. Yeah, this is all done. This is all good. It should pass, I think. Failed ARK service exception. Let's go here and test. Is it 5 tests? I missed something. I missed one thing. Let's see. What did I miss? Failed ARK. This guy. See, unit tests will save you from craziness that might be in your code and you're not aware of. You don't want to find from your customer, and you don't want to find in production for sure. That's what unit tests will do to you, right? Things that your eye can't catch, or maybe AI can't catch at this point in time. There you go. This guy passes. We made it. We made it to the other side, Greg. What do you think? Now I just register the service, and we do another 4-hour next weekend. So this is pass. And then I want to register in my MAUI program. I'm going to go here and say MAUI app builder.services add transient ARK service and register ARK service in here as a dependency. This guy should be happy. And what else is left? Did I miss anything, Greg? I think that's most of it. So configs, register ARK service, and then maybe I can create a pull request for it. Let's see here. Come on, still pushing. You can do it. There you go. And then what do I want to do now? I want to create a pull request out of this, but it's not giving me the option. Right? End to end. Okay, Greg, we'll do end to end. So let me find my let's go and create this PR. So this is so since there's already a foundation service, I can't say foundations anymore. It's going to be something like measure foundations, because it's medium, because it's less than 5 tests that I wrote. Medium foundations, retrieve all arcs, like that. And I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I have about 3. So that's right down the line of a medium foundation service, right? This looks about right. Let's go here and kind of create that PR. There you go. And that should trigger a build. Why did it not trigger a build? Did I not merge the build? Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, there you go. That's the build right here. Okay, perfect. What do you think, Greg? Should we call it 3 hours, 5 minutes on the clock before LinkedIn kind of cuts our stream? LinkedIn said to me, like their support team, they said 4 hours is your maximum, dude. And I know the view service needs to kind of it'll take a good hour 25, I think, or a good hour 15. So it's definitely gonna go over. Do we do it next week? What do you guys think in the chat? Where are the people in the chat? Do we do the rest next week and build the actual view? All right. So I'll let kind of Greg review this PR for me, the medium foundations. I'll kind of add him in here as a reviewer. And let me just show you where we are on the map that we started earlier. Where are we actually on that map, and what have we accomplished today? Like, how far did we go along in this endeavor of ours? Let me kind of show you. Here is, yeah, even Greg says I have only to 6 p.m. Greg and I are in the same time zone, so we're speaking the same language here. Here you go. This is what we implemented. So we did the whole API, right? But we finished also this one very painfully. Finished this one, right? Now tomorrow, not tomorrow, next weekend, we're gonna do this one, and maybe we do the components as well. That'd be fun, right? So that's almost the entire application built end to end. Just remember, there will be a special session where I kind of show you the DevOps aspect of it. I want to deploy that API to Azure. I want to make sure that this API is working and scalable. So when people download the app, they can talk to that API. I want to show you how you publish to the App Store and Google Play. I think that's a good stop. So if anyone doesn't have any questions, or if you have any questions, drop in the comment section. I'll read your comments. I'll go over your questions. Please take a look at the repository. I need to kind of post the repository for this code here in our chat right there. So here's ARK Apps Mobile. It should be visible to everyone. Take a look at it, star it, like it, clone it, learn from it. And I'll probably add the licensing. It's under the standard software license, so you should be able to kind of use it for whatever purpose. Change the code, do something useful with it. You don't have to kind of stick to what the app was built for in the first place. And as usual, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to drop a comment in the comment section. And thank you for your patience with us on that journey. See you next week. Take care.